Could we dig up this long buried treasure? Were it worth the pleasure? We never could learn love's song, we are parted too long. Could the passionate past that is fled call back instead? Could we live it over again, were it worth the pain? I remember your hair that I tired, but it always ran riot, like a slender sunbeam of gold. These things are old. I remember we used to meet by a garden sea, and you warbled each pretty word with the air of a bird. And your voice had a quaver in it, just like a linnet, and shook as the blackbird's throat with its last big note. And your eyes, they were green and gray, like an April's day, but lit into amethyst as we stood and kissed. And your mouth, it would never smile for a long, long while, but it rippled all over with laughter 5 minutes after. You're always afraid of a shower, just like a flower. I remember you started and ran when the rain began. I remember I never could catch you, for no one could watch you. You had wonderful luminous fleet little wings to your feet. I remember your hair that tired forever ran riot, like a tangled sunbeam of gold. These things we do. I remember so well the room and the lilac bloom, that heat at the dripping pain and the warm June. The color of your gown was amber brown, and 2 yellow satin bows from your shoulders. Your handkerchief of French lace which you tied to your face, a small tear like a stain, or was it the rain? On your hands it waved dew, your veins of blue, and your voice as it said goodbye was a petulant cry. Your boy wasted your life, oh that was the night when I rushed through the garden gate, it was all too late. Could we live it over again, were it worth the pain? Could the passionate past that is fled call back its day? But if my heart was brave, love for your sake, it will break in music I know, for its hearts break so. strange that I was not told that the brain could hold it tied in the ivory cell. God's heaven. Held her in my arms. She said she would always stay, but I was cruel. I treated her like a fool, and I threw it all away. I had mountains in the palm of my hand. Rivers that ran through every day. I must have been mad. I never knew what I had till I threw it all away. Comes over the hills, it makes the world go round. Love and only love can't be denied. What you think about it, you won't be able to do without it. Take a tip from one who's tried. So if you find someone who gives you all of their love, take it to your heart, don't let it stay. One thing's for certain, you will surely end up hurting if you throw it all away. If you throw it all away. One thing's for certain, you will surely end up hurting if you throw it all away. I give thee all I can, the more, the poor, the offering, my heart and all the store that I can give to thee. whose gentle song reveals the soul of full well. Too better for a heart that feels much more than lute can tell. Love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away. At least we'll make the brighter powers forgive them if they stay. And even if care at moments flings a discord o'er life's happy strife, all that love but gently touch the strings, draw me sweet again. All that love but gently touch the strings, draw me sweet again. Greetings, friends. How you doing? In a little variation from the normal, I'm going to just share my screen immediately, and just while it's fresh in your head anyway, whoever may be listening. And it's a pleasure always for me to hear it again. I was looking for it last time and I found it, so perfect time to sort of insert it now. So let me do the usual. Yeah. Share screen. Our screen. And hopefully everything is going to come through. So without saying another thing, listen to how shit I was.
Hang on, that's yeah. All right, it's off. So once Steve, just introduce the song.
This is
Chorus. Throw it.
what?
Throw it.
Throw it all the way. Just throw it all the way. Arms, heavens, in my arms. She said she would never sway. But I was cruel, I treated her like a fool. I threw it all away. I had mountains upon my hands, rivers that ran through every day. But I was made, I treated her so bad. I threw it all away. Nobody knows. It makes the world go round. Can't be denied. Doesn't matter how you sleep
C. A minor. B flat.
If you search, you should follow their nose. Take to your heart and penetrate. One thing's for certain, you should be there too. Control it all. Control it Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Steve. Thank you. Beautiful boy. That was excellent. That showed you how shit I was, right? Excellent, Steve. I was looking for that the last night and I couldn't find it. So I was also looking for not a filler song, but a second song to sing, even though it might piss some people off. I'll just sing 3 anyway. And yeah, so by way of comparison, I sang that song because I knew I'd probably play that one at some point. So I decided to play it at the start. So that was my boy Steve playing that. I think, what was it, maybe 5 years ago. So it was 10 or something, 10 or 11. Possibly 12, but 10 or 11. But the amazing thing was he was only relatively new to the song and the piano, for that matter. He didn't have a piano in his mum's house. So anytime he did get to practice, it was sort of intermittently. No, he did excellent, but an excellent song itself. And yeah, you sure embarrassed me, Steve. When I did sing Steve, I taught him that obviously, and that's a Bob Dylan song, so I'll go into that in a second. But it just whatever it was, he was playing the piano and I was strumming along with the guitar, or even just singing myself. There was a great harmony between the two of us, and you could feel it, just singing that particular song. I mean, but yeah, how you doing, everybody? Yeah, oh shit, I made an arse of the first song because I'm not sure you can stop. It doesn't matter anyway. Made an arse of it because I jumped into the variation on the verse too early. So everything after that was sort of off kilter, I guess, the best way to put it. But someone was saying, Adam61 Star was saying about my own songs, and I said, sure, I think I might have opened it before. If I didn't open up a hang up before with the song, I definitely sang it somewhere in between. So I just said I'd do that. Beautiful song, and it takes on a new significance as well. To L.L. Is the name of it. Well, it's a subtitle more specifically. The name is Roses and Rue. So it's a poem from Oscar Wilde. So the lyrics are there, they're his, but apparently there's a lot more, well, not apparently, I know there's a lot more lyrics to choose from. However, Oscar Wilde he just didn't write down a poem, he wrote down many different variations and possible additions or takeaways from it, which I guess is fair enough. But thinking along the lines that I think anyway, Oscar Wilde, Oscar, Timothy Osman, the Wizard of Oz. What does Oz mean? O-S or O-Z as it's spelled. But if you know the way my sister Suzanne used to spell her name, S-U-Z, like the squiggly one. So it was like the start of a Z and then you do the curl around. But, as it sounds, it's similar. So there is an association. Anything that sounds similar, there is an association. F and V, for instance, PH and V, Stephen, Steve, so when we understand that I guess, it's not all thoughts, all of our thoughts are constructed around words. So if the words are imbued initially with a special significance, then these become the things that we need to understand and take apart in terms of the letters. Every wall, every house is built from bricks. You might say that's fair enough. You know, I've decomposed it as much as I can, but now ask yourself what bricks are. Everything ultimately boils down to being sand and water. Yeah. Very simple, isn't it? Now you gotta ask yourself what sand is and what water is. Serious, deadly serious. I've asked myself these things. I want you to ask yourself these things. The very simplest of questions, right? Most difficult to answer, but we're making inroads. So yeah, as per usual, let me just go through the lyrics. So the music is my own, and again, apologies, I went off at the start. I'll go through it and I'll tell you where I went off at. Very interesting. I'll talk about the name in a second, but let me just go through the poem. And before I do, anyone who's listening or whatever, I'll just ask you to consider it, because the way I can read, or the way I am reading these things now, is that the likes of Oscar Wilde, Lewis Carroll, so many other, you name them pretty much, you know, anyone in the public eye, anyone who has sort of transcended time in a way with their works, are up for candidates anyway to be crafted characters. And when we look at the lyrics, and again the choice of the words included, we can see a different significance. And as I often remind you, it's not one man's story of regret, it's all of our story. So if we can put it in that sense, what's been told here is that, I guess, our history in one sense. You know, we know we live in a flat earth, but beyond that, what do we know? What's the real story? What's the real past? Just as our life, time has a certainty to it. Nothing can change that. I can vouch for that myself. I can remember back to the very earliest of times and pretty much everything in between. So no one can take that away, right? So if this is real, then there is a reality attached to our earth, and especially its history, you know, or its truth. So I think this truth is being told via works like these crafted characters: Oscar Wilde, Lewis Carroll, Hans Christian Andersen, Mother Goose, you know, even that's an anonymous author, etc., etc. The Brothers Grimm, it's all the same hand, giving you little sort of pointers at every hand's turn, right? Hans Christian Andersen again. Yeah. So anyway, let me get through the lyrics, and I'll comment on the title then, because that's very, very significant, or the subtitle more especially, but the title itself as well. Rue is included, roses and rue. So again, let's think in a general sense. It's not one man's particular story, which you can equate to some degree, or one woman's particular story you can equate to some degree, but otherwise it's a story in a foreign language. No, this is all of our story. So yeah, okay, let me get through it. Could we dig up this long buried treasure, were it worth the pleasure? We never could learn love's song, we are parted too long. Could the passionate past that has fled call back its dead? Could we live it over again, were it worth the pain? Then I should have slipped into, I remember we used to meet by a garden seat. But it didn't. I kept along in the same vein, and I fucked up everything after that. But it's okay. I can always do another take on it, and yeah, reinvigorate it, sing it properly. Anyway, I'll read it as a poem. I remember we used to meet by a garden seat, and you warbled each pretty word with the air of a bird, and your voice had a quaver in it, just like a linnet, and shook as the blackbird's throat with its last big note. And your eyes, they were green and grey like an April's day, but it lit into amethyst when I stooped and kissed. And your mouth, it would never smile for a long, long while. Then it rippled all over with laughter 5 minutes after. You were always afraid of a flower. Sorry, you were always afraid of a shower, just like a flower. I remember you started and ran when the rain began. I remember I never could catch you, for no one could match you. You had wonderful, luminous, fleet little wings to your feet. I remember your hair. Did I tie it? For it always ran riot, like a tangled sunbeam of gold. These things are old. That's another mistake I made as well. I said that verse had a turn, and then I had to repeat it. But no worries. That comes along with, I know the words, you know, so I'm sort of, I have them up on the screen just in case I forget them. So I end up reading them, even though I know them already, and that sort of confuses me as well. So I told you I'm a dumbass. Anyway, yeah, within the song as well, there's a story being told, and I guess the idea is to sort of build up a bit of tension as well to the culminating verses of the main body of the song, and then there's the climax at the end. But yeah, it's a bit late here. What time is it? 1:10 past 1 almost. With a full moon in the sky, the moon appeared miraculous tonight as I was walking Brandy on the lone bank of the river, no one around for, well, I wouldn't say miles, but definitely in any immediate distance. And green fields just beside the river, and the moon appeared in all its glory like an eye in the sky. Oi, oi, O-I. O-I. Remember I was talking about the O, the immaterial, the heart center, the H, the L is the material. And funnily enough, the name of this poem, the subtitle to it is To L.L. So anyway, we'll get back to that. But yeah, that was a wondrous sight tonight with the complete full moon, knowing, or at least thinking, I know anyway what's going on, that directly across, reflecting off of the molten glass-like or electromagnetic watery barrier, we have the sun, which is what the moon is reflecting, is a reflection of. So thinking I know this, I can see, but I can't see the sun, you see, but I imagine that if I was to rise just a little bit higher, a few miles in the air, I would definitely be able to see him in that position. So yeah, very wondrous indeed, and very still and very up close and personal. It's amazing. A completely different sense of perspective applies to the ground than it does to the air or to the sky. So as I hold, when I'm looking up at the sky directly above me, sorry to divert now, but I guess it all ties in, that there's an actual physical barrier, this Kármán line, but because it's curved at its highest point around the equatorial areas, it's about 60 miles, 58 miles is where I'm sort of resting. And the reason I picked that as well is because of the figure they give us regarding the sun, and it's 93 million mils away, MLS. So in one sense, it could be millimeters, right? If it was millimeters, and we learn that within all of the lies, the truth is encoded. Well, what would that translate to, I asked myself, in terms of miles? And 58 and 7/8 miles exactly. So I hold that that's the highest point above the equatorial areas, which applies to the contour of the barrier, not the flat land. The land's all the same elevation, give or take. So yeah, that's 60 miles, but directly above me, 40 miles. Yeah, it's a gradual slope until it gets to nothing at both peripherals, south and north. It's like your eye in a big sense. In a massive sense, actually, more than what we know. When you think about your pupil, it's all miraculous. You know, we have no, now that we know it's not all by chance. It's all miraculous how we work. You know, how everything works. But particularly when you think of your eye, you have the pupil in the center, and then you have the lens covering everything. But the pupil is capable of enlarging and shrinking. Yeah, so there's something else going on there. If you've looked at your eyes, honestly and deeply, and with intent, you'll see the crater in your eye. You'll see it's a crater, right? So again, this is how everything is tied in externally and internally together and bound together because that's the way it is. You know, we're just finding out these things, or I'm just finding out these things anyway for myself. That's where everything goes back to ARISTARCHUS, because it does connect everything. But yeah, we can all look in our own eyes and ponder these things, right? So anyway, getting back to a poem. So as it builds sort of towards the climax, the same story has been told. It's about previous conditions. It was post sort of trauma and regret. Roses and rue, you have all the time in the world and to regret. So anyway, I will stress again, don't be taking this personally. We can all relate to our own sort of experiences, intimately, of course, but when it comes to someone else's experiences, we can't. But if this is telling a greater story through metaphor and through sort of poetic license, well, then we stand to learn anyway. And if it's not for you to learn from here, you know, you learn it from somewhere else, in whatever form or fashion. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's the same story being told over and over. It's your story. We talked about externalization of the story. This is what it's all about, and this is what the L represents then as well. It's, I mean, when you have the Bible literal, that's telling you that you must believe in this literal sort of reality, thousands of miles away from you, and an infinity into the past it might as well be, and you must sort of embrace it with all your heart. This is ridiculous nonsense. This is absolutely ridiculous nonsense, and something we can't relate to. We can relate to all the same sort of fears, pains, pangs, troubles in life, you know, but fundamentally we're still all just going through this journey alone. So it comes back to the individual you having this experience. So yeah, these works, WRK, work, WRK, when you realize that the W represents the material, and you understand that we are the immaterial, then all of these building blocks, you know, that do construct the house or the mansion, can be understood as they apply to us, knowing that we are the story. My story, even though it's an individual path, ultimately is still the same story as you. That's the immaterial story and the immaterial nature to all of us. And this has been, I can't look at a word now and understand that this is what's been told, and you always have the choice. You have that immaterial versus material pull. You know, this is where the religion, this is where the gurus, this is where the construct comes into things. You have to be tempted, and you know, it's fair dues as well, because if you are a greater power, as we are, an immaterial power, then this stuff is easy for us, right? So for whatever reason we entered this arena, I think it was definitely with foreknowledge, and everything was capable of being figured out. This is why all these clues are sort of ever present. And as far as I see it, when you understand the letters that form the words and what they represent, as well as the numbers, it's all about the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and how they connect to this distinction between the immaterial aspect and the material aspect of us, and the heart center. So everything in relation to everything else. Well, then we can, I think, get a grasp on the greater game here. You know, there's much more to that anyway. So let me just continue on, because even though I'm prone to waffling, I don't think I've started waffling as of yet. Okay. That's a white lie there, by the way. But yeah, so I fucked up there, so that sort of messed it up for me. But no worries. I remember so well the room and the lilac bloom that beat a dripping pain in the warm June rain. And the colour of your gown, it was amber brown, and 2 yellow satin bows from your shoulders rose. And the handkerchief of French lace which you held to your face had a small Patricia steer bitten off your ear, had a small tear left to stain, or was it the rain? On your hands it waves adieu, there was veins of blue. In your voice as it said goodbye was a petulant cry. You have only wasted your life, ah, that was the knife. When I rushed to the garden gate, it was all too late. And then, well, that was the climax, that was the departure, that was the destruction there, that was the hopelessness seeping in. When he rushed to the garden gate, it was all too late. You know, the horse had already bolted, there's nothing you can do, just endure the thought. Then you go into the end of it, which is, could we live it over again? Worth the pain? Could the passionate past that is fled call back its dead? Question you have to ask yourself. If you had to live life again, painful as it is, if you knew there was a lesson to be learned and a lesson of great significance and import, would you do it all over again? I think we would. I think that's maybe the reason we're here in the who knows how many places. You know, second, I reckon I must have been here before. Hopefully, I don't have to do it. If it's sort of the rules and conditions, what you signed up for, you have to experience both male and female. But who knows? Careful what you don't wish for. But hopefully that's behind me, and yeah, so who knows how many people live how many times over and again, all voluntarily, because there's a greater puzzle to be figured out. That's what I think. That's why all these clues are in place. And again, all there is the individual. You can only ever account for yourself and your sort of path to where you are now. Listening to me, that's all. No one else can. And once again, you know, because it mightn't be one particular work that will resonate with you as an individual, because it's the same story being told in many different forms, core idea will resonate necessarily, you know, and you don't even have to do anything new. I think if we're of sufficient maturity and consideration, yeah, we have everything we need already to work it out. And well, when I want to talk about the title To L.L, I think this is a big sort of connecting block into everything. We've come from a heliocentric, godless nothingness, insignificance, and we've experienced the abyss, you know. I certainly did. All I could do is embrace it, you know, just say that's the way it is, so make the best of it, or think the best of it anyway, even though it's all futile. So we've seen the darkness, and even though I use that term lightly, dark and light, but yeah, let's now venture into the opposing side, and this is what we're finding out now. So all the construct and all the clues are placed in our path. Many of the actors are put in place. We know nothing about the life of anyone else, no matter how much you think you're familiar with anybody, I would say, pretty much, outside your children, but even at that, of course, but especially internet characters, especially, you know, the whole arena is controlled, and that's necessarily so. That's not like, ooh, oh, shocking, because the game is controlled. Everything's controlled. Titanic is not at the bottom of the ocean. It's not. What do you think? Like, think about it. And I'm just going to divert it again, but just on that point, think about it. They're trying to raise money for this, the most expensive, the most luxurious, you know, record-breaking ship on Earth, and you're going around, you know, begging, you know, selling a good product, What are you going to do? Ask for two? Yeah. No, you're not going to do that, are you? It's not, you do one. You do one of the best and see how that works out. If it works out shit, well, then you're not going to try that one again. So yeah, there was no Titanic. It was the Olympic. They were both the same ship. It's one and the same. Two become one. No place better to hide sweet fuck all than in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Are you going to go there? People like James Cameron can go there, all right, right? Yeah, no problem there, and they can shoot any old shite. How would you know what they're seeing? Have you not seen movies like The Abyss, or have you not seen any Cameron's movies himself? So again, this is all part of the construct. So everything is part of the construct. So you just got to sort of let it brush over you at this stage and understand in a greater sense that this is what we're immersed in. So now you have to concentrate on yourself and find out who you are, being of the mind and of the understanding that you are immersed in this construct, where nothing is real, at least in any of the terms that you ever held to be real, close to your heart as well. You believed lots of these things. I believed wholeheartedly in evolution, wholeheartedly in the Big Bang Theory. I got my aunt Teresa, if you ever see this, Therese, how you doing? And trying to convince her away from the religious sense. I bought her Richard Dawkins' book. Was it Killing God or The God Delusion? That was it, The God Delusion. So, absolutely convinced, only because we're all deserving of the truth. But now, Jesus, I'd take that book away. I'd burn. I wouldn't burn it. I wouldn't burn it because there's a lot to be learned from it. It's by, you see, the lie cannot exist without the truth, and especially within a construct, right? So we have the beginning sort of ingredients to start off with, and a story is then crafted around these ingredients. But it's a fiendish story, and it's a puzzling story, and it's expansive story. But again, the fundamental ingredients still remain the same. So because we are the one player, each and every one of us, we have to be tempted, we have to be challenged. This is where the externalization of things comes into things. So yeah, it's all about coming to these realizations and realizing that, hang on, everything here involves me intricately. And when we can understand then just how miraculous something as simple as the eye, the eye, yeah, simple, the most complicated, whatever, it just goes beyond words. Then we know we're dealing in different terms, and we've got to act accordingly. And I'm just talking within oneself. And when I say act, I mean think, because every act follows a thought, right? Think, THNK. Remember I said work is WRK. WRORK. What might that mean? Again, I can get so distracted, but the W is pointing downwards. The woman, right? The heart of the material. It's not any sort of, well, it is a hierarchy in a sense. The immaterial trumps the material. It's like rock, paper, scissors. There's no beat. The material can never beat the immaterial because we are not the bodies. And this is what I'm saying as well. Everything is via the contrast. So it's only by embracing heliocentrism or the Big Bang in general, the Big Bang model, and the funny choice, not a funny choice at all regarding the name. As I said, everything comes back to us ourselves. How we got here? So the sperm meets the egg, right? So the Big Bang. The universe came into being via the Big Bang. Funny enough, when you look at Aristarchus, we only can see it via the moon, right? And what it looks like in its reflected form. But the beauty of it is that all of the luminaries are Aristarchus. But when you look at the moon, it's the greatest blueprint in history because you're seeing Aristarchus from every possible angle, every possible perspective. In a kaleidoscopic expression. But yeah, when you look at the centers have a crater Aristarchus, and there's plenty of images out there. And what you see is the sperm and the egg. That's exactly what you see. And this is why Jesus is the Son in terms of the external, because this is where all the lineages emanate from, Aristarchus. But Jesus is always pointing at his heart as well. Not always, but in any depictions you'll see, for a lot of the time he's pointing at his heart. It's the heart center, the human center. This is the Aristarchus within us. So again, the external and the internal are connected in an indivisible way. There's no changing that. We're just coming to find out the story. We're just coming to find out the reality. But yeah, ultimately everything comes back to the sperm and the egg. And well, again, you tell me what we're dealing with here. I'd say it's wondrous beyond measure. Just haven't come to appreciate it yet, because I guess this is why the material becomes so weighty. It becomes so hard to take, because in one sense we know it's not natural, but we do enter here, I think, for definitive reasons. And yeah, there is great progress to be made. I truly hold understanding this division of oneself, and all the letters then chosen, which formulate the words, these have at their core the truth, but when we have that context, and that context then is this ladder between the H heart center, the heart is the bridge between the immaterial, the thought, if you will, and the material, right? The groin center, the heart and the material. And if we take a trip down, right, if we immerse ourselves in the material, we're going from the H center, necessarily so, because we are human. There's no taking away the material from the immaterial, in their current form. So this is what we have to deal with. So you want to have that center of heart balance. This is what your heart represents: heart, earth, ether. Yeah, I mentioned this. That's just going to be the same sort of thing again and again. But the liberty flame is your heart, but it's also the central peak of Aristarchus. That liberty flame, its original, is found in Paris. Polaris, Paris, Aristarchus. And yeah, again, everything is connected. Everything's connected. We are torn from the zero. So the zero is the immaterial core of us, right? We can't escape the reality of things. We are not the bodies. We are the zero dimensions. The material realm is composed of things that have a breadth, a depth, and a height. Sorry, a breadth, a length, and a height. This is what the heliocentric model is about. Remember the H, it brings you down into the depths of the L, right? Certain letters, again, fall into the same category. The W, the G, these are all in the same material realm. Yeah, the heliocentric model is all about the material universe. Everything has a material construct. Everything can be measured. Everything can be dimensionalized. So if that's all you have, that leads to atheism, right? That leads to there's no higher purpose. All there is the material. So you have the H going to the L, which is hell. That's what hell represents. When the H goes to the top, upwards, you incorporate the immaterial into your knowing, but then you go for the T, right? The T is the top. That's what the TH represents. Mouth, M-O-U-T-H. Faith, F-A-I-T-H, right? So I'm going back to the poem here. Let me finish it off. So the question we ask ourselves, could we live it over again? Were it worth the pain? Could the passionate past that has fled call back its dead? So something happened in the past that created this deadness. And indeed, yeah, we live in a broken, unnatural system. Externally and internally, we're divided from ourselves. The world is hewn. The world is destroyed, but, if it's part of the construct, all for good reason, I think, ultimately. But that's here his final sentiment. Well, if my heart must break, dear love, for your sake, it will break in music, I know. Poets' hearts break so. But strange, that's what that is. So this is where I changed the for the ending as well. But strange that I would probably need about. I should probably record that properly and put a few little snapshots in the background. Definitely could think of certain things to do there. But just put that in the long list of things to possibly do. But yeah, here's the final sentiment. But strange that I was not told that the brain can hold in a tiny ivory cell God's heaven and hell. Hmm. Hmm. Well, if you were told, what difference would that have made? That is the question, isn't it? And if you were told, believe me, there are certain people who know the reality of our situation. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what groups like the Masons are all about. They're led into secrets, deeper secrets, and all of their imagery and iconography and symbolism all ties into the same core story. You know, it's not as if they're telling a different story than the main story, because it's the main story. It's of the story of us, of each and every one of us. What part they play in terms of having a greater life of mystery? Everyone has to experience this life of mystery, isn't it? I'm thinking maybe they don't. What do I know about it? Do I know about it? No idea about it. There are certainly powers in play that have always been in play. Same hand, for instance, that wrote the Bible for me. Again, everything I say is just from my own point of view. The same hand that wrote the Bible, wrote the works of Shakespeare, wrote the works of Lewis Carroll, Oscar Wilde here probably, you know, etc., etc. Edgar Allan Poe, the Beatles, you know, same hands. It's the same executive producers. So I'm going to say this. I was thinking it there, and I mentioned it last time. So just as it comes in, and we talk about hell here, God's heaven and hell, I'm thinking that Robbie Davidson is the sort of the devil of flat Earth. It sounds fucking strange now. It does. It really does sound strange. But I'm thinking, man, this is a sort of personification of something. And it is all theater. But I was just thinking that, so I said I'd say that. Yeah, there's something not right about all of this, but especially about Robbie Davidson. And when you think about the word, the letters are used to make the name itself, Robert, David, son, David's son. So we have a Jewish connection, and when we sort of put it all together in terms of this contrived arena that we're in, yeah, is that an outlandish thought to entertain? I don't think so. I remember looking at Robbie Davidson. First of all, I mean, not to dwell on this or anything, but Brian Mullen is put forward as a hero in all of this, you know. And I don't give a fuck. I mean, this is sort of an arena, you know. You have to participate here in one sense. I don't know how you describe this in a greater sense, but just me paying attention and sort of observing and caring. I mean, where all this is going. Brian Mullen is put forward as a hero, but I've seen to, at least to my own satisfaction anyway, he was the sort of official stamp on flat Earth. You know, he had the qualifications, and he worked in civil engineering, so that sort of extra credence was attached to him. You break down what he actually did or achieved or presented that was new. Not very much at all sort of emerges. But before he left, he went over good old same ground, is my point. Same as Nathan Oakley does. They go over the same good old same ground, you know, but they do it well. But before Brian Mullen left in a blaze of drama, he gave us a few things. He gave us the Bible. He found the Bible again, so he found God. There has to be a creator, so suddenly he delved into Bible literalism. Nice, that's fair enough. It's a bit rash, I would have thought, especially when you've come to question everything at such a deep level. And I think that the same powers who gave us the heliocentric model could not have given us other fabrications like the Bible, or altered a story to suit their own ends or needs, as a possibility anyway. Yeah, of course, so, but he did give us the Bible literalism. More significantly, he gave us the Flat Earth Conference and Robbie Davidson. Two of those guys apparently were responsible for the first Flat Earth Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. So this is a conduit for the introduction of this guy, Robert Davidson. The first time I saw him, I go, what the fuck? He's like a stick man. What's going on there? So I'm interviewed then, right? And if you wanted to count up on average, so I haven't been playing any part and my eyes feel fine, but if you wanted to count on average the number of blinks I've done in the last, say, 30 seconds, I'm thinking on average I'd probably be about 40 a minute, 50 a minute, something like that, maybe maximum 50, something like that. Robbie Davidson was, I just noticed it, he might have been on Mark Sargent's or something, he was blinking good-o. I think I must have counted up to 100 blinks a minute, even more. And that sounded very strange. And who else blinked like that? Brian fucking Mullen did as well. It was always with the blinking, always with the blink. It was a natural. Now, I'm not saying anything, but I've read quite a lot of stuff. I've heard quite a lot of tales as well. Aeon Aton tells a very interesting story about an encounter with a reptilian type figure, right? And as far as it goes, I hold it to be true. But I had heard about, reptilians, and especially this difficulty blinking. They are not difficulty blinking; they overblinked because of the dryness of their eyes, and this was an issue. So that was in my brain when I'm looking at this. But just in terms of his whole position then within the flat Earth public face, that's the best way you could describe him. He's the king of flat Earth in one sense. He's the king of the world. We know that the flat Earth is the truth. He's a man of good arguments. He's well spoken, but there's something not right. And when I say the devil, I mean the D. D is the top here, right? It's the immaterial, the heart center. We're working our way down the E. So the E is one side of us. We have three options on the central spine: the material at the bottom, the heart center, and then the immaterial at the top, the T at the top, or the O, or the D. These letters belong in the same category. Homer Simpson, Homer, is famous for his does, right? D-O-H, D-O-H, right? H-O-D. That immaterial understanding, that immaterial truth we embrace, and then we can resist all the material. So this is where all these temptations come into it. But who owns the world? The devil owns the world, right? But as I say, it's all symbolic, representative. D, right? V is pointing downwards. So D-E-V-I, that's me, I-L. That's why the devil owns the world. The world is the material, which is not us. Why would you want to own the world if you're much greater than the world? So this is my thought anyway. So in that sense, that's what I mean. What Robbie Davidson is, the face of the devil, if you will. So physically, there's something wrong with all of these guys. Patricia Steer, as I've talked about. I don't want to get into characters, whatever's going on here. I think it's all screen, it's all theater, it's all part of the play. Of course it has to be. But whatever is the true story behind these characters they are. I mentioned about Patricia Steer. I'll show you a picture in a second. Honest to goodness, what's going on. But I mentioned that whoever designed Patricia, or whoever does the makeup or whatever, the prosthetics, you know, sit down there for 2 hours and let's put on the lumps in the cheeks. Let's do the paper thin layers of rubber with surgical glue, you know, then it sticks to your and moves with your muscles. They perfected all of these techniques throughout throughout the years. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to realize that these are characters. I mean, how can you not realize? And once you realize that, then what do you do with it? It seems that it's not a good idea to bring it up in public forums like these hangouts, because, well, you get ostracized quicker than anything. But you're fucking, if you're already ostracized already, if you don't give a fuck in the first place, well, that's a different matter. But we have to be able to see these things, and we have to see that, like, there's that intricate connection between these crafted characters like Patricia Steere, Mark Sargent, and Robbie Davidson, and whoever else, you know. If you don't realize it, well, that's up to you. Then you're just going to be said and led again. And I guess ultimately, all I can think of is, well, you've been defeated. You've been defeated in the game. Player one is dead in one sense. You know, you followed the crowd and you missed the whole purpose of why you entered here in the first place, to play this game, to come to this realization. So that's the way I see it. But, you know, just me and my thoughts, but they're not coming from nowhere. I don't really fool myself at this point in time. Honestly, I don't. Whatever that means, point in time. But yeah, that only come there because they. Let me just go through the last bit. But strange that I was not told that the brain can hold in a tiny ivory cell God's heaven and hell. Yeah. So maybe it wasn't strange. There was an absolutely excellent reason why you weren't told, why you weren't made privy to the outcome of the football match before you watched it. Takes the fun away. And once again, it's only via that contrast can we truly appreciate the truth, right? The heliocentric, the heliocentric, the H has taken that step down into the heart of the material, and everything suddenly becomes material. Even space itself, empty space, becomes material. These are all the sort of the mind fucks, I guess, thrown in your way, thrown in your path. But once you come to a certain point of realization, it's easy to discard them. Problem comes in terms of filling that gap left, you know. And, well, as I say, poems like this, clues everywhere. Let me just go back to the title. To L.L. says it all in relation to what I've been saying. L represents the material, the leg, L-E-G. So there we have the G again in the same category, right? The groin area. This is the generative center of all of us, male and female. If we understand, we're torn in four. We have 4 parts, right? We are the immaterial. Twisted gives us the infinity sign, or dodo, right? This is what dodo represents. And then that infinity sign split in half gives us the 2 3s, right? Or the 2 E's, male, female. So think about masculine characteristics, not masculine, male characteristics, how you would, you know, think about that yourself, and female, and how we have separate entities going on, but fundamentally there is this impenetrable or sort of indestructible sort of bond between the two. It's like the two are torn from the one. And that's exactly what's going on when you think about it. Think about the genital parts, the penis and the testicles are just an inversion, or it's being pulled out. Whatever we output, one is pulled in or one is pulled out. Well, Adam came first, right? The thought came first. So yeah, one is pulled in to form the other. In all its components, just stretched, configured, if you will, and one was made to fit the other perfectly. So this is the quarter we're in. You need to connect the two halves. I think this is all the transgender stuff is about as well. It's telling us about our greater natures, right? So we connect the two halves, and then, well, we untwist the infinity. But within these bodies, anyway, we're certainly locked in the material. But we have the ability to transcend it, I suppose. And this is not new stuff. This is not airy fairy stuff. Of course, talk about transcendence. Um, goes back hundreds, and say thousands of years, but I don't think life goes back as we know it to thousands of years. But maybe, well, I've often said that. I think it's the Earth in this form now is 420 years old. That's what the dodo and that whole sort of constructed tail represents. So whatever came before that, this is maybe what Oscar Wilde here is in Rue 4. You know, destruction certainly plays a massive part. Giant trees play a massive part as well. And, well, Aristarchus, which is the center of everything. Old trees or Aristarchus. You know, so you have Aristarchus in the center of the tree of life, and then you have all the limbs strewn around the desert areas, the mountainous areas, etc., and a central energy being broadcast up, and that energy then holding back the waters beyond, having Earth in a sort of an apple shape, a bubble. We live in a bubble, you know, which separates the Earth and its confines from the waters beyond. When the giant tree, Aristarchus, at its core, was decapitated, well, then the rest of the limbs died, and I think the Earth was destroyed by fire, and then we had an inundation of waters, which changed the landscape, which was already a barren landscape because it was destruction everywhere. And that's what the dodo represents then. And even today, well, I should have said yesterday now, you have Thanksgiving and you serve up turkeys. I don't think the turkeys are thankful for Thanksgiving. What do you reckon? You serve up turkeys. We do the same here in Christmas time. Another interesting area, but we do the same. The sacrificial turkey. This is what the turkey is, the dodo, sort of embodiment of the dodo. So when we think about Christmas, the Christmas tree, destruction of the trees, the whole ritual there, then we can sort of piece it all together. Jesus was born on Christmas, right? So Jesus is the sun. The sun is an artifact of a broken system. As I say, just imagine fiber optic Christmas tree for yourself that's been lit from underneath, where the tree is sitting on X on the base, and it's been lit from underneath, and all of that energy, electricity, is being broadcast through the branches, right? It's lighting up the corner of your room. So imagine whatever elaborate lighting system or color system you have yourself through the fiber optic tree. Now imagine getting out your hacksaw and cutting the tree off at its base. So the energies are still broadcasting, but now there's no distribution system in place. So what would happen is a laser beam, almost a laser sort of torchlight, and if there was a barrier, it would reflect off of it in the form of the cross section of the lower tree. This is why the sun, when we look at it at high altitude, above the atmosphere from high altitude balloon footages, is far from circular. That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a crater. So yeah, these are all clues for us. But when we tie what we know or what we're learning back into all the things that we sort of took for granted, all of these different occasions or different ceremonies, then a lot more can make sense. Even though none of this, who are you going to tell about any of this, for fuck's sake? Who are you going to tell about any? Come on. Best you can do is tell yourself, or like me, just come on here, not give a fuck, you know, and just say what you have to say. Look how long I spent on the first already, for fuck's sake. But, you know, it connects, and that's the problem with everything connecting. There's no seeming coherence to or illusion of any order, right? So it doesn't seem like there's, but yeah, everything ultimately sort of gets back to square one. But as I say, for the most part, I can just speak for and from myself and just continue on going with the flow here, having a smoke, and yeah, considering and reconsidering these things again, reading them, you know what I mean, with new thoughts in mind. Oscar, yeah, America, America, Mount Meru. So yeah, I want to get into that. God's heaven and hell. I talked about that. Any image that pops into your mind when you hear the word God, you have to forego it, because that's not the situation. That's not true. That's not true. In one big sense, you are God. You see the way you have the G? The G is the lower, the material. The O, the immaterial, and the D then is the upper. So the O is everything. It's all encompassing. It's no end and no beginning. You can't count O. Yet infinity comes from zero when you twist it. So how can you do, zero must be greater than infinity when infinity comes from zero. This is why the O is chosen. Oh yeah, but that's what you have to forego. You have to forego these pre-formulated pictures. And here, this is where the Bible literalists come into things then as well. They'll have you cling to these pre-formulated, prefabricated images, picture stories, etc. Can't do it. Don't sell yourself short. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Simple as that. You've come too far. Don't fall for it. And it's not with any disrespect for anybody. You might have a deeply held belief in what you believe in, but that's fair enough. I have my own thoughts on your belief, and that's fair enough. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, you can. Otherwise, you know, I don't particularly need to hear your thoughts, only in the sense that I've been down that road before, and I've considered that, and I incorporated it into my thinking. So that's the only sense you can ever speak in. But there'll be all these temptations, you see, and that's why, all of these Bible antagonist, Bible literalists, right? This is why they're taking such a prominent position now in the line. Robbie Davidson's out of the Bible. All of these entourage are the same. We're being painted. Every flat Earth has been painted with this strange Bible literalism sort of coloring. And well, that's going to sound all the more strange to the ears of the general public, who have been conditioned now for the last however number of years to sort of despise the church. If I ever speak to anybody, or anytime the church has come up anyway, when I spoke about it, you know, not seriously, but just came up in casual conversation, to strangers for the most part, there's a bitterness and an absolute hate of the church. And of course, we've been fed, we've been said, we've been led. And we've been set up. That's what I say it. So these people are all about science. The masses, they're all, they have all modern conveniences. Everyone has the best of electronic equipment and the greatest sort of computing power, all of the Wi-Fi they need, all of the access they need to rubbish for the most part. But there are jewels within the rubbish. So yeah, we're being set up. Where do you think the masses are going to go towards? So this is the role Robbie Davidson and via connections and Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer, Nathan Oakley, every one of them. This is the role that they're playing. We are these are the frontliners, right, for this battle, this pre-written battle between science and religion. And well, at the head of the flat Earth is one Robert Davidson, who, well, as I say, I'm not even sure he's human. I'm not sure of anything anymore. I'm not even sure if Patricia Steer is a tranny. Antonio Subrant says she is, and he says so wholeheartedly and vehemently from personal, intimate experience. So when I'm trying to work out what's going on here, I've got to take that into account. But then I also got to take into account that Subarant's backwards is star IBS, and I found out the significance of ARISTARCHUS. And because I know the nature of this arena somewhat, and I know Subrant's is an actor put in place, that choice of name is not incidental. So what is the greater picture here? What might his motivation be for introducing us to this controversy regarding transgendered Patricia Steer? Think a little deeper. We think a little deeper. So are some of these characters even human? I don't know. What level of capabilities are out there? What is the true situation regarding players in play here? That's a question for the individual, but as for me, myself, yeah, bodies are avatars, so I think there are powers that can jump in and out of bodies. Absolutely. And if this is a greater construct and everything is sort of pre-designed to go a certain way, ultimately, yeah, where does that leave you? Can't shy away from that, right? And of evidence as well. I have pictures of Patricia Steer. I'm going to show you one, actually. Let me show you one as I'm talking about it. It's good to see there's 12 people here. I'm going to chat in a minute. Sorry about the waffling on. Just talking off the cuff. One thing leads to another, but they're all important things. I'm telling you that. None of it's sort of insignificant. And even though it might seem that way at times, everything will come about to sort of connecting. Because that's what I'm trying to do is connect everything and find out what the fuck is going on here, especially when you see something like this, right? And again, this is purposefully done. This is purposefully put in our path, like the transgender stuff, to stir controversy. I think, yeah, hang on, let me just move that up here a small bit. She didn't need to appear like this, man. And this is not Halloween now. This is, I didn't even watch it. I didn't even watch it. But just a video, and people were saying, why is Flat Earth important? And this is just one picture from it. And I said, just as I was looking, I said, fucking hell, look at that. What's going on there, man? What's going on? What are they doing this for? Well, I'll show you now. You'll understand when you see it. So you can see me here with all of my, well, you can see me a minute ago, all my flaws and whatever, my aging. But that's just still who I am, but when you see something like this, here we go, look. And I took a snapshot of the side of it as well, just to show you that the colors are normal here. Colors on the screen are normal, so it's not my screen, or it's not. Yeah, that'll do. Look at this, man. This is not my screen. So look, these guys are normal. Normal color. It's not my screen, man. So this has been put in our face, and it's almost like you're being goaded, Yeah, come on, question who I am. Question, am I even human? So don't be telling me anybody not to talk about Patricia Steer, or especially when you've been encouraged with offerings like this to sort of, and Robbie Davidson and Mark Sargent walking out and all, when you're encouraged to do it, but I'm not just going to fall for the low-hanging fruit. There's a different story going on here. These people are ahead of the game. They're setting out the game. So let's just rotate this. It's not a great image now. I challenge someone like Rock. What's his name? I forget his name now. But he's constantly on the back of Patricia Steer. But he is a ball earther, so I think he's probably still an act. You can't be considering flat Earth for an elongated period of time and not make the journey over it so obvious, right? But there's so much more to the story. Rock lover, that's it, rock lover. He'd have a field day with that video. Yeah, flat Earth conference. Why does it matter? And here we have Patricia Steer. You're free to go on and picture yourself. This is freaky, man. And just let's see. I haven't rotated this around, but rotate it. Then what's unnatural will jump out at us more so than if it wasn't, especially with a high definition picture. I maintain Patricia Steer wears a mask around here. Look, actually, they got a clear. It's white. Around here. And same with the other side. Up and around the nose. She cuts off her lips here. Look, she always does this. She cuts off her lips. Women are always proud of their lips, but Patricia always cuts off her lips. She foreshortens them. It's because there's all these facial prosthetics all the way around and down around her chin then as well. It's the same on the other side. But don't take my word for that. That's not what I'm here anyway to do. I'm just saying what sticks out at me here. I know it's the same sort of mask that all of these characters wear. It's the same format that can fundamentally change your look. But yeah, once again, look at her bottom lip, honestly. And this is only a still shot. I don't want to dwell on this. And look at how much it's cut off here. Look. She has a habit of doing that because her mouth is too big. Her mouth is too big for her face. And that's what I talk about. When Patricia was designed, whatever mask she's wearing here, ooh, that's a terrible. It doesn't look that blotchy now, I'm sure. That was just a snapshot from the video itself. But go on, feel free to go on the video and take your own high definition rock lover or MGTV or whoever and see if you can spot this mask, this prosthetic. But my point is here that there's more to the story. This is what's being fed to us on the plate. Already captures of Patricia Steer without a pupil. Now, ask me what's going on there. 1 second she was talking away, next minute she would blinked and her eye, I noticed it, and her eye was pupilless, and a fraction of a second later the pupil dropped into place. That's not right, man. And when I told two people star gods, I just sent it in a message, star gods, and what was the other main guy who was trying to expose these actors. Yeah. When I went back to the video, after pointing them to the appropriate area, the offending part was gone, vanished. Did have a few snapshots of it, which I have here. I can show you that just in case you don't believe me. I don't spend any time on this, believe me. I don't spend any time on this. I look at a video. So, for instance, that video, Flat Earth, what does Flat Earth conference, what does it matter? Just same old bullshit. So, but I just, Patricia's picture jumped out, you know, when you just put your mouse over the video, when it skips through a few snapshots, and I'm going, holy fuck, what's going on? Holy fuck, it's not Halloween now, so what's her excuse? Here we go. Look, I have them here, so I'll just show you because I can bring them up easily. And I didn't take proper snapshots. I thought I'd have time to go back to the video again, and I didn't even really take it too seriously anyway. I know these people are something other than what they present, but there you go. Yeah, so one is just, you can see 904. Let me just bring it up here. So yeah, this is just as it was dropping in. So I didn't get the snapshot just before this. But as you can see, it's much more faded than this one. So it's just about to drop in place, and then after that, so what I would have had ideally is 4 shots. So before, and there was nothing. 5 actually, you know, but yeah, there was nothing. And then I got this one in the middle of it dropping into place. This then was more advanced, and then the one after that would have been just another dead eye like this one is. So sorry, Patricia, nothing personal, but you're acting. I mean, what's going on? Well, yeah, who's it down to call out these people? No one else, seemingly. Any one of the, I call them the potato crew. See how violent they are in terms of rejecting any conspiracy talk at all regarding Patricia Steer. Yeah, it doesn't wash. It doesn't wash. So, well, again, we got to know what sort of arena we're in. You as the individual, and look at the lips cut off again here. Look, foreshortened. That's what I said. Patricia looks relatively reasonable, I guess, from the front on view. When you see her from the side, man, there's something. I'm going to say monstrous about it in terms of not natural. So, yeah. Your makeup artists don't do perspective, Patricia. You see, they don't like this. Even the likes of the bowler antagonists. And I fucking wondered, I was going, what's going on here? Even these guys who would pick this apart and would be jumping and laughing all over this, Patricia Steer being a tranny, they were silent on the matter. They had no comment, and ultimately they came down on Antonio Suarez being a bitter, jilted lover, but didn't make any deal of it. So again, something's not making sense. I'm not going to dwell on this now, but Riley sent me this picture. Dan, he said, "What are you saying about Patricia Steer, you bollocks?" And he said, "I met her, and she could do it a burger, but other than that, I met her. Here's the picture." So when you zoom in, and it's a very high definition picture. And remember, her makeup artist knew that she was performing in public. O'Reilly himself here is the solicitor, we're told, who was presented to us. This is all orchestrated. Riley came along dressed in the same gear as Nathan Oakley. The show then that came along last year after this. So this is all pre-orchestrated. But the point being that this visage was made up to an excellent degree, more than normal. More effort was placed in it, so it was more difficult to find out or to identify the areas. But upon close inspection, you can see them, especially because this is a high definition. Look at how plastic it all looks. Again, we have the lips cut off, but look, you can see layers of skin. Look at them. You're going to say this is all blotchy. This is all just blotchy makeup. No, not a chance. This is all. I told you. This is how it works. Look at the absolutely spotless chin. This is how it works. Think of paper mache. These thinnesses, they make up an artist. Think about Michael Jackson being transformed into what was that famous video? He was transformed into a fat guy. This is all there to mislead you as well. The actual deceptive techniques and of makeup artists are far more advanced and sophisticated. So yeah, all these blotches here, these are all separate layers of skin. Just like this layer of skin covering over the lip, giving the impression that the mouth is shorter. You can see a perfect example here around the lip. Look, the cracking point, because the lip has its boundaries here, but it's going to be a difficult area. See it, Nick? And when you spot it there, it's fucking clear as day. So it's the same thing. It's just a mannequin. It's what do you call it? But I found a particular interest, and I don't want to. I didn't even no intention of talking about this. Look at the upper lip here, covered over as well. I found a particular interest, and I said to Riley, "You're going to regret sending me that picture, man. Look at the eye around here. The mask, someone in a mask, but look at the eye itself. Remember, this is a high definition picture. Zoom in on Riley here. Nothing too untoward. And that's not to say he's an above board character, he's far from it. And probably the most, for me anyway, he's a solicitor. He should be the first one talking about the legal name fraud, getting everyone on board, saying from a legal standpoint, from a lawful standpoint versus legal, where we have the L and the G again, legal, L on both sides. Yeah, let me just move this over. And I mean, this is just a copy of the picture in Paint or similar, a Windows photo viewer. So the original picture, it retains just a little bit more quality. But when you look at the eye here, and we had trouble with the eye the last time, first of all, you can see there's someone behind the mask. But when you look at the eye here, and here, seems to go all the way. People here, but and the other eye. I know you're going to say this is makeup. Well, it is and it isn't. Oh, Pete, I can't stand you anymore now because you're doing this. No, get the heck out of here, man. Now, all I'm trying to say is beware any genuine people out there, that these people are acting their part and they're there to mislead you. Ultimately, I think is for the purposes of your greater good. That's the only thing I can sort of cling to, that they're privy to greater information and they're players in this greater game of realization and knowing that the time is now when the construct becomes revealed. And Martin Leedkey, another crew member, putting out some great information, or some very hefty and serious information anyway, which tells a completely different story regarding our history. So these are all things that have to be considered in unison. If you're stuck on the same fundamentals of flat Earth, well, there you go. Del, D-E-L. Del is all about the material, isn't he? I think God, Del, give me that shit. No, I don't mean, he doesn't talk about that. These are unknowable things and we don't need to dwell on that. Let's go back to water. Let's talk about curving water. I love it. Yeah, whatever, man. When you venture anything outside any of that, then, well, nothing can be known. It's all just speculation and opinion. So I'm just going to set my stall here and be happy with what I know and just keep with infinite patience. Yeah, being happy, repeating. Nice. Yeah. Hell, you see, you have to be tempted. You have to be said and led. And if I've been said and led, can you stop being said and led? Because if you don't know you're being said and led, chances are you've been said and led. Anyway, didn't mean to dwell on any of this. I wanted to get through a few chapters of Pinocchio. But look, anyone, come on, anyone genuine in chat there, bring up that video for yourself, Flat Earth Conference, and look at Patricia and tell me what the fuck you're seeing. As I say to you, yeah, it's all very staged, and we're getting to see all of these things exactly because we were meant to see them. Get caught up in the drama then, and pick your mind away from greater considerations. If you miss these people's real clues, and I talked about Patricia being a clue giver, as Mark Sargent is, Mark our agent, all within the name. But Mark Sergeant Pepper is his most significant clue. Mark Sergeant Pepper, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band. Okay, let me leave Patricia behind. Go back to the poem. So yeah, I'll leave that behind as well. Oh well, I won't actually. See, I could talk about this for ages. What is the long buried treasure? Could we dig up the long buried treasure? Worth the pleasure. We never could learn love's song. We were parted too long. What does all this mean in this new context? Well, anyway, its subtitle is To L.L. And we have this devolving into the material. I think this is the ultimate code here. This is what Adam and Eve represents, the division within. A material, Eve, the heart of the reproduction, if you will, and then that immaterial seed. This is the male sperm, which, everything comes from the thought. So everything's imbued by the thought. And the thought comes from elsewhere. T-H-O, O in the center, So, yeah, we're digging up that treasure. Yeah, so just to say, To L.L, yeah, here we are in hell. Now we got to rise up. So I mentioned Adam and Eve. When, where did I hear that? I didn't know about this, but a certain family moved in where I was living down in Ennis, and they were from sort of Eastern Europe. And just a couple of children, this was all natural to them. They told me a story about Lilith. And I'm going, who the fuck's Lilith? You don't know Lilith? They had the accent though. You don't know Lilith? No, who's Lilith? Well, Lilith's the one that Adam wanted, but she didn't want him. So she pissed off at him. She was cursed then. And Adam got Eve. So I'm going, Jesus, this is new to me. But I was just thinking in terms of the name itself, L-I-L. I-T-H. Yeah, it's not an external story. It's not an external story. This is where the fairy tales become real and the true stories become fantasy. This is where we got to distinguish. So yeah, very interesting. And as I said, the subtitle to that is To L.L. Some people were talking, well, in regards to the story with Oscar Wilde, if we go into more conspiracy candy for us. But one story I heard was that he was put in Reading jail because he took the fall for a lesser crime, and as opposed to bringing down a young Winston Churchill, who he was having some sort of a gay affair. But I fancy that that's just more conspiracy stuff, as probably the character didn't exist, or the man didn't exist as presented anyway. And it was all character and theatre associated with him. Okay, so I can leave that there and move on to Threw It All Away. Sorry about this now. I'll go through this quickly. I once held her in my arms. She said she would always stay, but I was cruel. I treated her like a tool. Or sorry, not like a tool, like a fool. I threw it all away. Once I had mountains in the palm of my hand, rivers that ran through every day. I must have been mad. I never knew what I had until I threw it all away. Love is all there is. It makes the world go round. Love and only love, it can't be denied. No matter what you think about it, you just won't be able to do without it. Take a tip from one who's tried. So if you find someone that gives you all of their love, take it to your heart, don't let it stray. One thing's for certain, you will surely be hurting if you throw it all away, if you throw it all away. Yeah. The way I look at all of these offerings again is, yes, it's male divided from female. It's us divided from ourselves. Can't speak again from the female point of view. I can only speak from my own point of view ultimately, but within that male sort of category. So you're on your own in this one, baby. But yeah, we're torn from each other anyway, however it works. That's why they say you have a soulmate somewhere. Everyone has one soulmate. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe you only have to live once. And ultimately you get reunited with your other half. Who knows? I don't think it's external though. That's the one thing I don't think. Again, that's what I keep talking about. Not to be externalizing things. That's symbolic division. And this is, I think, why I got onto Patricia Steer. Again, everything comes back around. That, this is all a tranny promotion. And it's not something that's new. This has always been in play. This has always been part of the game. It's always been part of the setting. But now we're just coming to realize just how much of the setting it occupied. So you can be afraid of it. You can put your fingers in your ears or other orifices and whistle dodo. That doesn't change it, right? So the least you can do is think your way through it. I think you don't have to do anything. And I think we have the ability to think our way through it. So the only problem is if you do, what then? What then? That's yeah. So I sang that, but I only sang that just to give you a contrast to my beautiful Steve singing it at the fourth song. So the third song was another composition of mine, demi composition, my heart and lute. And so again, I took the lyrics. Thomas Moore was said to have written the poem, and I put my own music to it. So I won't go into detail about that. Only that, well, the title itself, my heart and lute, L-U-T-E, is my earth and star when it's unraveled. Lute backwards is Ital. And Ital is French for star, and we're led there to my heart and lute via White Knight in Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass, the second book. And that is book for book. That's the most significant book that I can see anyway, book for book in history. So, and I think that's why it's been promoted so much as well when we think about it. Again, I talk about Mark Sargent. His biggest clue is Mark Sargent Pepper. Mark Sargent Peppers. He was a prepper. He tells us without any other internet presence, he was a prepper, put out a prepper's guide. So Mark Sargent Pepper. Sergeant Pepper's Sergeant Pepper's we find out then is all about Alice in Wonderland. So when we make these connections, we can see how it all may tie in anyway. And I'm not going to use the word may too often because it's settled that this matter. And when we find out the Beatles have a connection with Aleister Crowley, we understand when we look bare, you only have to scratch the surface for the most part. See, this information has to be accessible to pretty much everybody. When we simplify things, well, you read that Aleister Crowley made it compulsory for Wikipedia. That's where Wikipedia is excellent. That's the purpose of it, actually. Shit on conspiracy stuff, necessarily so, but excellent on these tidbits, if you will. So Aleister Crowley made it compulsory, we're told, for all of his students to know Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass inside out. So forget about the character themselves. This is where they're pointing. So we can just bypass all of that. And now we can get to Alice in Wonderland. And when we do, as I say, the most significant, bar a couple of things, the most significant pointer is towards my heart and lute. And yeah, I put the music myself to it, and the lyrics are as is. So if we're going to chat, any questions or anything? I'm sorry about this now. You know the usual. I'm just casually on anyway. There's nothing really. What the fuck do you talk about anymore? What do you talk about? Because if I start talking about something, I'll just go down the deep end and get lost in. It seems to be coming through all right. I get lost in. I wouldn't say minutiae, but I just decrease the. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Andres, how you doing? Shumanadi, you're off here? Yeah. Okay. I don't see you, I think. 2.88 mile mushroom. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Andres asks, have you seen? I was going to talk about that, Andres. So let me go on to that anyway. because of the day that was in it yesterday. Pete, have you seen the recent video which looks like Jackie killed Kennedy? Absolutely. I saw that way back in 2012. And let me tell you why that's not so very good story for that. Let's Roll forums. If you haven't heard about it, well, I don't know where you've been. You certainly haven't been asking questions or investigating 9/11 or media fakery in general, because that was bound to come up. But on the same thread, I posted the thread. Yeah, I'll post it in a second. On the same thread, you had the main author of the Jackie killed Kennedy conspiracy. And for the first, I would say, 20 odd pages, it was a raging battle with both sides, honest inquiry, both sides providing some excellent things to consider. But by a certain amount of time, the guy who developed the Jackie killed Kennedy theory to its conclusion, I suppose, he developed it really to a high degree. He abandoned it. It was undoubtable that there was there was no cause for any doubt any longer that you're dealing with another state affair. This is my point. But the point being also that this is just a story, right? So the story will lead on to bigger stories, or is a part of a grander story. And this is the nature of things. So absolutely, I can post you that thread. So you seem to be talking about that 2.88. David, isn't it? David, yeah. Yeah, David, honestly, this is all covered here. So I'll just put it in JFK staged shooting. Let's roll forums. If you enjoy reading, oh shit, hang on now. Oh, I have it. Let me just see what the count is here. How many people have read this thread? I'm sure it has to be up in massive numbers at this minute. I'm not going to look for the statistics, actually. Well, just to actually, you know what? I'm still sharing. Nice one. That's grand. I was going to share, so I have it up on screen here. Look. So the title of it is "The JFK Murder Was a Staged Event. JFK wasn't killed on the 22nd of the 11/63." No, he wasn't. And we have 6 and 3 in there as well. It's all encoded. And this is going back to 2010, which I was pretty much came a bit late to the party, maybe halfway through the next year. So maybe well into well, not too far, because I actually made a contribution to the Jackie killed Kennedy. I found out a few things. But here's just going through the basics of it. By the time you get to the end, there'll be no doubt in your brain whatsoever, and you won't even give a fuck about Kennedy, because it'll have led you to so many other places. So this is just an example of some of the detail that's gone into. So, this is not Piche's way of doing things, although I could, present any case with sufficient motivation. But there's the link here. David, do yourself a favor, bud. Honestly, do yourself a favor. So by the time we get, by the time we get to page 21 here, let me just see if the character appears. No, it doesn't matter. But by the time we get up to around this point, the two antagonists, the Jackie killed Kennedy and the staged affair, Coulto, had already agreed. There's no doubt at this stage. And from this point on, everything is just, again, copper fastened. Great detail has gone into, and it's analyzed to a great degree. And this is only page 21. I can go up to page 40. Let's say 41. This will take you back to 2012. So you can see that this investigation has gone on over the years, and so many different connections are made as well between all manner of interesting characters whose heads pop up everywhere. Most especially is Princess Diana, and also Sirius. Sirius plays a massive role in all of this. And as I talked about the letters, when we think about Sirius, it's Sirius. So in other words, if we were to read it like a child, S-I-M, I and U are S. So we're the two S's. You know what I'm saying? We're divided in 4 parts. The 3 represents the half, the E. Male from the female, if you will, left from the right brain. And it's about bringing the 2 together with everything centered at the heart. So 2 overlapping S's, an S and a backwards S will give you an 8, which has a heart center gravitation, if you necessarily, because we are human, H-U-man. So yeah, it goes into all this detail here. And for the sake of, I don't know, it would take you a while to go through it, a couple of weeks at your own pace. Actually, it goes into Mary Pinchot. I remember being into this as well. This is amazing stuff here, And when you realize it's all fucking fakery, it's just that one constant thread of fake affairs and fake narratives and fake characters being presented to us in a overwhelming sort of bundle. So yeah, we can look past, for me now where I'm at, we can look past all of the details, the intricacies. You get lost in the devil in the details and see the greater significance. JFK, for instance, JFK, just one of these peculiarities. J is the 10th letter, F is the 6th letter, and K is the 11th letter. Now, if you invert it and reverse it, you have 11901, which JFK was Irish, right? And an Irishman reading that would say, well, that's September 11th of September 2001. Funny that, right? JFK is also associated with Camelot and the killing of the king. This is a Christ-like figure and a Christ-like association. When me being in Ireland here, me being King of Éire, Kennedy is Ceann Éide. And when you look at the translation for Ceann Éide, Ceann is head, and Éide is wound. Head wound. So JFK representing Aristarchus and Christ-like figure. This is what Christ is, this Aristarchus. And the same with Arthur C. Clarke, Aristarchus, Arthur, and his 12 knights of the Round Table. This is about the sun at the center and all of the luminaries, which are emanations and reflections of the same thing. So Jesus is the 13th, Arthur is the 13th, and I bet you throughout this thread, lots of associations with the number 13 occur with JFK. I haven't looked at it. I haven't the inclination to go back into it again, even though it'll be really interesting. I know it would. So if we go up to page 61. Yeah, that's even back in 2013. Got all that information. Let me go to the last page. I bet you there's someone contributing maybe a month or 2 ago. No, 2016. No, actually, hang on. Yeah, 2017. See, the whole thing is settled now. What do you do with it then? The whole thing is settled now. But it's a very interesting pictorial here of with an accompanied explanation as to how these stories are crafted. And for instance, 9/11, he talks about we have the official story. Once you make your way through beyond the official story, where it's made obvious that you don't belong here, then there's little gates waiting for you. When you then venture into the next arena, right? You think that that's all there is, but there's stumbling blocks, there's traps, there's sort of nowhere tunnels, until you're eventually led to the gate. They always know you're coming. Then you go through the next, and you're given a little more freedom, a little more sort of luxury in your new knowledge. But ultimately, there is a massive lie being hid in the center. And it's just interesting that he's developed it like this, because that for me is reminiscent of Aristarchus, and it's a fascinating read. Go through it yourself. On the chart, here's Jackie Kennedy, another transgender. What do you reckon? Look at the hips here. No hips. That was page 75. So I hope that answers your question, Andres. Andres. So yeah, he's still the Kulta, who is in the Netherlands. He's still contributing. 2018, September 25th. I wonder what he'd make of some of this stuff that I've been finding out. Okay, because of the day that's in it, let me just go through this then, because he's quoting a post. So this is about the fake bloodstains and how they don't match up. So let's just see what he has to say. Remember, this is a well-developed and well-mastered argument. We know that this is all stagecraft. What we're trying to do at this stage is just to work out the story being told behind it. It isn't just a con. It is not just a distraction. There's a greater story encoded within all of these enactments and these characters chosen. I've mentioned about Seth MacFarlane having that Kennedy look to him. And as far as I'm concerned, he plays the role of Elon Musk. So this is a generational thing, and as I say, the story is already written. So let's just go briefly through this, if there's anyone still left. And if not, it'll just do good for me to refresh my mind anyway. And just let me just sum up my thoughts on the day itself. Yeah, absolute stagecraft. It was symbolic. It's like 9/11, and I give you that little connection there. But yeah, when you take it literally, you lose it. You lose the meaning. So we look for the symbolic and what's been presented here, understanding that it is all theater. No one was shot that day, and you can prove that to yourself in many different ways. Trust your intuition, and have at least in mind, when you're investigating any of these things, the possibility of fakery. When you do that, you have that open mind. But then, that's a daunting prospect as well. Governance, international. Why didn't the Pope stand up and say it? Well, you still have to be honest with yourself. And when you are, then look, there'll be no doubt left that you're dealing with fakery. And yeah, you were meant to know this. So that'll take you into the next layer of deception. And well, ultimately, if you keep going, you might get to the truth. And well, truth. What is truth? Yeah. So let's just read this for a second anyway. The fake bloodstains, which were featured all over the event of the 11/22nd, are basically the key to decipher the JFK murder psyop, as was shown in this thread in many ways before. Please note Jackie's body position during the rush to Parkland, right? So here's Jackie. Kennedy was supposed to have fallen down from the opposite side. I don't want to get into this too much anyway, so you can imagine it yourself. These are the proven fake bloodstains on the backseat of the limo. Nothing new for the regular readers of this thread, by the way. Please note the impossible pattern of these bloodstains. How could you ever get a bloodstain pattern like that, right? Amid all the confusion surrounding the limo at Parkland, the answer to that question might very well be in the footage itself in plain sight. Once again, the Parkland video, the sequence is from 105 to 108. Now, watch very carefully the right hand of the police officer. He brings his right hand to his mouth. He opens something with his teeth. It seems like a small tube or bottle. He quickly moves his right hand into the limo. It seems like he throws something out of the backside of the door. He smoothly touches the upper side. Exactly, you know, it seems for all the world when you examine it yourself that he's planting something on the scene. So I'm going to go through all this, and you satisfy yourself. These are all right. Have a look at this. The very moment his right hand is near the limo door. Right, so one of these little pools, little capsules of blood, or fake blood anyway, and yeah, an enactment, a staged affair. They would have rehearsed it and been under instructions. You do this then, etc., etc. So yeah, they just took care about faking the blood stains. All right, so he just posted a GIF there of him spraying the. This is, yeah. How clumsy is that? This is supposed to be the limo where the president has just been shot, and there's your man fucking something into it. But yeah, they make it so obvious as well. We're meant to figure this shit out. All right, so yeah, and settle in that matter. It gives you all of the sources. Okay, let's see what Coulter has to say here. He said the interview with Parkland trauma doctor Red Duke is a typical mainstream media gatekeeping product with the usual items like Jackie's badly stained clothes and Connolly's wounding, which he claims he had to work on, etc. Just like the focus on Jackie's red roses at the end. Red roses symbolize secrecy, the secrecy of the fakery in Dealey Plaza, of course, the ritual killing of the king. Isn't that funny now? And I just spent fucking an hour talking about roses and rue and how significant words are. Um, and he talks about how it symbolizes secrecy. So yeah, it symbolizes more than that. But secrecy is one of the things. So it's just funny that popped up there. So why did they show and actually zoom in on it? This blatant proof of the JFK murder fakery, while it was meant to be seen like that in plain sight. In fact, this interview shows the psyop structure of the JFK event. The big lie is shown in plain sight. That's the trick. There are always these built-in clues to figure out the truth behind the big lie. In this interview, it is the footage of the faking of the bloodstains on the back seat. See the psyop castle posted in the Anna thread. Now, the Anna thread is another thread where they bust open the Princess Diana hoax, in great detail and conclusively as well. But once again, we come to the realization that hang on, there's a different story being told here, and we can't come to the truth of the fake nature of these affairs. But we, in terms of the greater treasure, I guess we can follow the threads and we can find ourselves having access to this greater story being told, which was the way it was always meant to be. Everyone was supposed to have access to the greater story. It's just up to you. Path you take in potential to make your way there. All about asking the right questions. I'll just quote this because it's a sort of flashback for me. However, there's always a built-in possibility to access the castle, the big lie itself, to those protecting walls. There are small hidden doors which enable to transition from the unprotected area, the official story, right into the castle. The green D in the schedule. Please note these entrances are an integral part of the entire design of these protecting walls themselves. In other words, this is definitely not damage control. They're there for a reason. In my opinion, this is the most fascinating aspect. I would absolutely agree there. It's the most fascinating aspect because once you understand 10 fucking faked events, you can understand 100 faked events. But where are they leading? Why is the narrative chosen in the way it's chosen? Why are the names chosen? Why are the numbers chosen? What do they ultimately represent? So yeah, the killing of the king with JFK, most significant. Um, So he said the elite allow the public to know they are actually being fooled big time with big lies, but we just don't take any notice that we don't ask the questions. And that's the last one with Jackie Kennedy. Look at that. Big man's head in her. She was with the Twin Towers behind, like, yeah, because they know the significance of it. So why there's a tranny twin, male come female, male come female. Well, as I say, this is your story. This is all fucking drama on the world stage, but it's still your story. No one can take that away from you. If you met him or her, it'd just be a person. It'd be the same as you, but they'd know a fucking hell of a lot more. But look at how masculine this person looks. And indeed, if you look at pictures of Jimmy Carter's wife, very reminiscent, wife in inverted commas, very reminiscent of our Jackie here. So JFK, playing your own Jimmy Carter, same wives, possible. And one thing was for certain, that Jackie killed nobody. Nobody killed anybody in Dealey Plaza. And one thing I realized myself, there's all these little clues. Again, once you know, then there's no unknowing. And because, yeah, it's not true, right? It's a staged affair passed off as real. So you can't be convinced once you know. It's like once you know a magic trick, you can't be fooled. No matter how many times they try to fool you, cleverly, they try to fool you with the same trick, they're not going to do it. But you're also helped out with the next trick because you know there's a trick there, and you sort of hone your skills as you make your way through. But yeah, I hope that link will be of some use to the genuine out there, especially you, David. If you're caught up in Judy Wood, not Judy Wood, for fuck's sake. So yeah, let me just say what you wrote there when I was talking about this, David. You said if you zoom in on Jackie's hand, you can see the object has been scrubbed from her hand, and also a frame missing. At least 3 other frames, along with dramatic change in the shadows between frame. They filmed a dress rehearsal first and spliced into the footage. Okay, all right, you're okay. Sorry, David, for picking out me there. I thought I got the wrong impression. Okay, I thought you were defending the Jackie killed Kennedy side conspiracy. And if you, well, let me. David 2.88 Mile Mushroom says, you know, the current JFK footage is not the same footage that was going around in the 1990s. This footage literally has a pot plant in the car. What the fuck? I didn't know that. It's all a joke, right? It's all a joke. And, you know, as time goes by, it becomes easier and easier for the inverted commas layman to spot the nonsense. Come on, think about it. JFK, difficult at the time, you know, you get swept up, but upon investigation, you could have worked it out. Plenty of people did, I'm sure. But we didn't have the same access to information as we do now, right? But as you make your way to Waco, Oklahoma, 9/11, 7/7, Sandy Hook, Boston bombings, all of these worldwide sort of news stories, it becomes easier and easier to spot the fake. You know, so after a while, you just need to look at cursory glance and even tell you, oh, just more of the same, more nonsense. But yeah, this is what it seems to me regarding the pot plant and its absence. But yeah, it's not surprised in the slightest. So it's as if someone wants us to know, and maybe we want us to know. Are you paying attention? So I'm sure there'll be many programs on TV now convincing the masses, you know, to shed a tear on this Thanksgiving Day for JFK. 22 and 11 is 33. And then we have the 6 and the 3. 3 sixes, 666. These are all hoax codes in one sense when we look at them in the right sense, but they have many different applications as well. As I talked about the 3-3 earlier on, the division. down the center within ourselves, the E, the whole E, spirit, HOL. Remember, whole E, I mentioned the O representing the immaterial. The H is the heart center, the bridge between the material and the immaterial. And the L then is the material center, the groin, or the lower aspects, anything to do with material existence. So there we have hold, HOL, or OHLE, spear, IT. What's it? Who's it? Well, time, where it's constant time. Time is not a number of me, it. So, yeah, this is all your story. And, yeah, how do you set about bringing those three distinct aspects of your construction together? That's the next question, isn't it? That involves, friends, fasting. That involves, overcoming the material. So when you can overcome the material, anything becomes possible. But you can help yourself out. I was thinking about the fountain of youth, body of Christ, all pointing to the same thing, our bodily fluids. As males, semen; as females, maybe your menstrual blood, something like that. But it's all about these imbuers of life. I was thinking about the egg versus, this is why the woman is represented by Eve, the material, Mother Earth. The egg, well, one is no good without the other. The egg is the receptor. So the sperm then is the imbuer, right? And this is why the sperm is associated with the man and is with Adam. It comes from the thought, it comes from the immaterial. And whereas the woman then provides that incubation to bring the immaterial into the material, which is when the egg and the sperm meet. This is, when you take the body and blood of Christ, the transubstantiation. So this is, in a literal sense, transferring an imbued force, life force, energy, miracle, whatever you want, magic, from the thought, from the immaterial realm into the material. And this is what it's all about. This is how we all arrived here. This is what we spend our lives concerning ourselves with, to a big degree. It never leaves us. It's an integral part of the greater scheme of everything. And indeed, when we consider Aristarchus in this new light, well, this is exactly what we see when we look at Aristarchus on the moon. When we bear this in mind, it's a little sperm in the very center of the egg. But when we understand that we're looking at a reflected artifact of our creator Aristarchus, and that if we were to ravel it back in together, like you would fold in a fan, then we get the very central peak of Aristarchus, which I've showed many times. Let me show it here. Does it remind you of anything? Because since let me do it actually, because I have no agenda here. All I want to do at the end is play another song, and read a couple of chapters of Pinocchio. The way I have to fucking make some progress with it. Right, there you go. So there's Aristarchus. There's the sperm in the center of the egg. But when you understand that this is all reflected artifacts, and if you were to fold it in on itself, like a big spiraling can't think of an analogy, but something that folds into itself, like one of those party things you blow through, sort of. With air they unravel, and then without air they sort of ravel back into its center. So when you do that, you have you can see the 8 here as well, right? You can see the 8. You can see also the G. This is where the Masonic G comes in. Things you can see up here, that is the eye providence. And so much else. This is the NASA down here. This is the NASA serpent tongue symbol. All these patterns here are all the cloud patterns. I actually saw this pattern in the cloud today. Light and shade. So remember, when you see a cloud, don't forget the light around it as well. So you can think about the light or the darkness, the solid or the shadow. And you can form two pictures. If you remember that picture of the dolphins at the start of No Forest and Flat Earth, well, of course, all of us saw the two naked people, a man and woman, embracing. But when you look into the absence, you see the 8 dolphins. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. But you know when you entered it and when you had this preconceived idea that it was absolutely certainly two people embracing. So yeah, it's the exact same thing here with clouds. And I saw this pattern in the cloud. I recognize it. It's the same thing, but there it is. Fundamentally, this is the NASA Serpentine. These are all. This is the luminaries here. This is your whole universe. That's been broadcast through this. This is the universe, but it's more than that. But all of these patterns, if you will, that 8 looking, you say, oh yeah, well, it might look like an 8, but what of it? Well, I'm saying plenty of it, because this is where the symbol, the 8 or infinity, comes into things. It's the twisted 0. And remember, if this represents the sperm in the egg, we can think about this as our venture from the 0, from the immaterial into the material. And that's what I said. That's our first division. That's where the dodo comes into it. That's where we're divided at the heart center. Now, within that experience, Genesis 1 has us in that state. We enter Genesis 2. Within that state, the 8, right, the twisted 0, we have become divided then again, male from female, right? So this is what it represents. But when we understand that this is a sort of a kaleidoscopic, a fractal expression of the same thing, ultimately everything reduces down to this. These are all freely available images. You can with the right equipment, you can go out and capture all of these things yourself. Yeah, there we go. It's upside down there. So yeah, everything reduces down to this. What does that remind you of? This is the central peak of ARISTARCHUS. So when we see this, we are seeing this in a spiraling, reflecting, overlaying, kaleidoscopic, fractal pattern. And I don't know about you, we can see the light and shade here as well. The male and female, the solid and the shadow. But I don't know about you. So many things that come to mind when I look at that. Fundamentally, the sperm, the eye of the penis, the vagina. It's the same thing, and this is the very heart of the material, right? We can't deny it, no matter how much you don't like the topic. I don't know, it might embarrass some people. I guess it embarrasses me to a certain degree. All these things are sort of private, but once again, we sort of withdraw from the personal story and see how this applies to all of us. And certainly, our sexuality applies to all of us, and we all came here via the same way. So, yeah, so fundamentally, this is the universe here. Mount Meru, anybody? Mount Meru? Amarukar? Amarukar? So yeah, this is Aristarchus. This is the sun. This is the moon. This is Polaris. This is all the stars as it reflects, expresses in its decapitated state, destroyed state. So that's where I'm at. Well, yeah, it's all. Okay, Mandela effect. I think Mandela effect, just to talk briefly about that, I think it's part of the storytelling. So it's getting us to open our mind to different possibilities. And I think when you get to this stage, this late in the game, me myself, I realize then that fucking anything and everything is possible. Nothing is written in stone. When I talk about Aristarchus, they're getting to the very heart of our matters. I know that the Aristarchus is expressed in terms of the earth, the formation of the land takes the form of Aristarchus. So it's not just the stars above. It's not just responsible for the electromagnetic barrier between us and the waters beyond. It's expressed through the ground itself. It's everything. It's everything external. But yeah, again, to the heart of matters, it gets to our very core. And what's more, these things are known. I know these things are known because there's so many clues for them. But how would I go about starting to present the clues? I don't even know, you see. I don't even know. And I don't think that would work anyway. It's what is it about? You can just say things in simple terms, and then if I have my mind to change about anything, then I'll let you know. But where I'm at the minute is just exactly as I'm expressing it in simple terms. I could back up where I'm at, lots of different pieces of information or evidences or comparisons. It's not about convincing anybody. I can show you can see my screen here, just for instance. All of these images fundamentally reflect around capturing the same thing, which is the likeness between the sun. So here we have HH232. The sun. This is Pangea. What do you think of this? I know it's a bit difficult to make out, but if you examine it closely, you will find that there are more than just incidental likenesses between these two. This is the central peak of Aristarchus again, and this is a representation of Pangea. We're told where all the continents were once together, and they all drifted apart, which is absolute fucking nonsense. We're living on the stump of a tree, if you will, in one sense. That's the best way I can put it. So when you drain away all that water, you're getting down into the root system. And, the deepest trench is 6 miles. Is it 6, 8 miles? I think it's 8 miles, actually. Mariana's Trench. What's in a name? What's in a number? Then you get to the root system of the whole thing. So whatever we're fucking dealing with here. I mean, when you're talking about 60-mile high trees, that's a far cry from anything we can envision. We can sort of mull over the thought, but to envisage something like that, it's a possibility, isn't it? But yet, within our being, I think memories linger. And I have to say, I think this is all storytelling. This is all sort of a wondrous adventure story, ultimately, accepting that we're all greater beings, taking this trip into materialism and division. So this all is not reality, it's not, it's a construct. And I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. So nothing has to make sense. But everything has to make sense then in a different sense. Because it's there to be figured out. So yeah, all of these little clues, I definitely see that from the cove here. It's not exact, but it's so close. But that's just one of the comparisons. It's so close as to, alongside anything else I found, as to be not by chance. But that's just a for instance. Someone posted a picture of this as something seen on Google Earth, and immediately what came to mind is here our great Aristarchus. This is an image somewhere, capture somewhere. David, you're particularly interested in this. I think you brought something similar up yourself, but this is what I see here. Look, even from the central peak here. Look, again, the sperm and the egg. Going fucking crazy. I made it now. He goes spiraling all about, imbuing everything and anything, all that fluid with this amazing thought, the thought that brought the sperm into efficiency, right into life. So, but look, when I look at this, yeah, this is a reflection of this, even down to the outline, even down to this, and I could go into much more detail. Crater Barringer, if I fucking had the mind to, that's mind blowing. Crater Barringer and how it's almost sort of an exact reflection of Aristarchus. But here's just another example of a very closeness to Aristarchus. Now, I've already come to the conclusion. When we look at the moon here, this is through a telescope, right? So this is through a very high definition telescope. It's please be found on YouTube. So you know it's genuine. It doesn't look at all like we would imagine the moon to look. So I understand that there are effects added, but fundamentally we're still getting the same sort of patterns. But I have long since come to the truth. I'm going to say at this stage. I mean, everything is this. Everything is this here. This is called crater Herodotus. It's a neighboring crater of Aristarchus, we're told. Well, all that is, if Aristarchus is the bicycle wheel, Herodotus is the tire, right? So they just dismantled the bicycle wheel, or just took a component of it and put it next to it. So it's a reflected artifact. That's all that is. Here then is a sort of a zoom in on just the side of this. It's overlaid. This here is the same as this. It's all the same, no matter what size. Here we have another reflector artifact. No matter what size you get to, you're still dealing with the same thing on a different perspective and magnification, reflected conditions. But isn't that amazing? I think the more you look at that as well, the more I look at it, I don't need to look at it too much, but the more I do look at it, more any incidental similarities can be ruled out. But yeah, that's just another image. Got so many of those. But yeah, that's what I encourage you to do. I'm just speaking specifically to David here. I mean, only because we were speaking on Jim Vegan Goy show. But yeah, I encourage you to look up, just get this image of Aristarchus, and you know all those patterns. You seem to be diligent and have the passion to make these comparisons or to find these things in Google Earth. I've been to Google Earth myself, not a long time ago, but I've looked for some of these things. And actually, yeah, no, I wouldn't say a long time ago. I definitely need to go back to it. But I was sort of looking for something different. I didn't see all of these patterns in the deserts of the Sahara, all the monster-like creature patterns, which are definitively there. But yeah, I encourage you to, all these patterns, get a high-definition image of Aristarchus here. These are sort of freely available and easily available, and zoom in and see if you can find any trace of those patterns within anything you see here, because you have to first understand what you might be seeing here, which takes a while to wrap your brain around. That's all I can say. You think you might be looking into something here, into a crater, but as I pointed out before, as the moon spins, that crater, Aristarchus, will rotate 180 degrees, and you'll get the impression that that's prodding out at you. So, which is it? What's going on here? So we have to understand that we're dealing with illusion. And well, at its heart, everything I think comes back to here. The decapitated tree of life. This is what I think, the decapitated tree of life. So that's again symbolic, but ultimately it goes back to this central peak where everything revolves around. You can see the 8 here. It's almost like this is swirling around, isn't moving, like in a you know what I mean, creating a pattern. Well, that's exactly what's happening. But yeah, I'll just say that to you, David. Bring up some of your own finds or whatever, any of these massive, monstrous, like imprints on the earth and in desert areas especially, and see if anything occurs here. What I do know is There are regular cloud patterns. As I said, I spotted this one today. But there are regular cloud patterns that repeat in your own local vicinity and in my vicinity. And it turns out, well, I'm happy enough that's the case as well. These same patterns are repeated earthwide. So we have almost like, well, a stenciled energy. And this is indeed where I think all of these patterns can be traced back to. I've seen this eye in the clouds loads of times, and I've seen many other different returning patterns, again, all to be traced back to Aristarchus. Aristarchus, as it projects initially, meets the barrier or whatever, the screen, watery, like molten glass screen at Polaris, and then Polaris, its direct reflection is the sun. And the sun then, as I observed tonight, its direct reflection is the moon. So all reflections and the same thing. So yeah, but once again, this is my own pathway here, and I don't say any of the things I say lightly anyway. Not to claim that I understand everything, but there's too many sort of intersections between lots of these things. For instance, here's a fall streak cloud. I maintain I've solved this. Like, tell me, which is a better explanation of official science. What I'm saying here, this is a particular crater on the moon, what they call a crater. Here we have a fall streak cloud. Science gives you the explanation. It's just it's not a perfect hole. It's a hole that forms due to extreme conditions and rapid freezing at the heart of a bunch of clouds. Whereas I'm saying that this is a pattern. All the clouds we see are patterns expressed. And this pattern, when we look at the moon, this is why the moon is our biggest clue. And as I said, it's the greatest blueprint in history because it shows the same creator, notice the similarity again and again, from every different angle, every different perspective, when you can separate it from the reflected artifacts and the overlaying. So yeah, that's my explanation for fall streak clouds. And yeah, and make no big deal about it. Just recognize it and move on. Because this is who you're going to say anything to. Did you want all I would ever want is for fucking things to change. All I want is like for people to realize just the whole fabricated nature of everything, and that there's a different explanation going on. Which is far more compelling and far more pertinent. Far more personal indeed. So yeah, that's just another example. Fall streak clouds, if anyone is interested. It's just a crater on the moon. You don't necessarily need this one. Find a similar looking one because again, they're all the same thing, and you'll find a match. It's the same pattern being transmitted again and again. And even if you look at this here, you can see all the circular patterns and the eights in the clouds. This is all because you have vesica Pisces. You have intersecting sort of circles on every different spiraling level. And again, it's a continuous pattern. This is why we have constant sort of, sun, we have constant energy transference from the source, which is Aristarchus, to the rest of us. So all of these patterns are being transmitted via this mechanism. As I said, Aristarchus generates the electromagnetic barrier, if you want to call it that. It's fundamentally just this divine energy holding back the waters beyond. And this is what we call gravity as well. You see, everything is inverted. Gravity is not a pulling force from below. It's a pushing force from above. When the trees were there, they played their part in holding back the waters, and anything underneath, according to how the story goes, I guess, was free from any of these restraints. When the trees were collapsed, and so we get all the deserts now and all the high mountains, especially along the equatorial areas, when the trees were collapsed, supporting pillars were collapsed. We had a mass inundation from beyond, and it wasn't completely destroyed. So the barrier we now have in force is a destroyed barrier, or a sort of much lessened intensity or power, anyway, I guess, barrier. And gravity is the reactionary force to that force that's holding back the waters beyond. Everything beneath this barrier is subject to this force that was never meant for us, because Earth is a broken system. So it's this force that separates everything beneath it into the particular layers. But fundamentally, we have to understand as well then that we're dealing with a solid Earth. We're not dealing with floating islands on a massive lava. We're dealing with a solid root system. So the waters are just the inundation. So yeah, we have to understand this relationship between above and below. And again, at the heart of everything is ARISTARCHUS. And people have heard of the word ARISTARCHUS now. And people are afraid of it as well. It's not that they're afraid of it, but I mean, these things are known, and if I'm not right about its ultimate significance, I don't think I can expand upon its significance in one sense, but if I'm not right about that, well, I'm backing close to something anyway. It's not even what I found, independent of any clues from um, any of the storytellers, main storytellers I'm talking about, Earthwide the Church, for instance, or the Masons, or the likes of the JFK shooting or the 9/11 symbolism. Yeah, Aristarchus is where everything seems to be pointing. But as I say, that's only half the story. That's the external. Now we can understand it gets to the heart of our matters. So don't externalize anything. The whole point. Um, okay, once again, don't get much fucking talked about. Uh, so sorry if I don't get to read any comments. Oh, I'll just read this. Yeah, see, I considered all of this before, Tumanoid, and again, all part of the script. That connects JFK to Stanley Kubrick, which connects so many other things. Kubrick to 9/11. Kubrick is a big connection to 9/11 with 2001: A Space Odyssey. So they're telling you within the narrative here that these connections are there to be made, take them there to their fruition. Um, okay. Sabrina, you say that you think everybody died a while back, and this is some weird flash in the end at the end of our hell. Well, that's similar to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the sense that at the very start of it, the Earth was destroyed, and there's only two survivors in the universe, I think, who are human, um, and the Earth was regenerated then, but it was all fabricated reality within a matrix. So who knows? Who knows? I think you might be a million miles off. This isn't real. You see, the big question we have when we come to flat Earth is, well, what exactly is fucking real now? What can I count on as being real? And yeah, I'll let you ask yourself that question. And I would say my own self, nothing at all is real. So it's just about us coming to clarify and classify, I guess, this new realization, and then find out about who we are within this construct, I think. And ultimately, I don't see any other way. If we outlive our bodies, I know we do, and if we are the immaterial, I don't see any other outlet here than going down the construct. I've entered a construct for some definitive purpose, and I'm in a state of division. But the clues were placed within the construct to unify, to realize, and well, transcend maybe, transcend. I made the equation with Genesis. I think fundamentally we're in Genesis 1, where male and female created God, them. I say in one. So we are male and female within one. Genesis 2 represents this excursion into division for whatever purposes you like. But that there are so many clues pointing us to the same thing. Yeah, I have to come down on the side that this is a construct, and the purpose was always for us as individuals to make our way through the experience and get back to full realization. So this is what the likes of the Mandela effect serve, and all of these fake stories, especially made more obviously fake on the face of it in recent times. Um, I mean, for me, when you realize Will Smith plays the role of Barack Obama, I don't give a fuck, man. Nothing else after that doesn't matter. And so I have to take it seriously. That's what I mean. I know Will Smith has no authority over me. So as Barack Obama or his equivalent to decide any authority over me? Not a chance, man. Everyone's acting their part. But when I came to that realization, and in my own brain, I said, well, it's him, isn't it? There's no getting away from it. It's him, all things considered. And I've just rested there 100%. I could prove that, I think, adequately, but I'm not bothered. But what that's just saying, when I come to that realization, or that Mark Thatcher is Theresa May, yeah, what the fuck? I mean, what are you dealing with here then? You can't be taking this sort of stuff seriously. And this is where this comes into it then. Look, this is part of the greater puzzle. And it tells you a whole hell of a lot. You know. There you go, yeah, look. What's the 2015 Economist cover, 3 years ago now. And just after Mark Sargent brought out his clues, and there we have Mark Sargent's microphone in the corner, Patricia Steer, and her guitar on the other side. But what it's fundamentally telling us is what's fact is fiction, what's fiction is fact. These are cartoon characters, and within these cartoon characters lie the truth. This is all theatre. Look, again, we're just encouraged to follow the Pied Piper, but this is all theatre. These are all actors on the stage. And yeah, the greater treasure is to be found by following the clues and realizing this significance. So yeah, it's just me. But yeah, when you get to that sort of way of thinking, yeah, you can't take any of this shit seriously. Yeah, you can't take any of this shit seriously. But what the fuck do you do then? Is the next question, isn't it? Okay. So I think we can move on from there. But any other questions? Irving, how you doing, man? How you doing? Good to see you. Okay, yeah. I was looking at, let me just show you what I was looking at in terms of the words. I was looking up the symbol for and looking at the symbol for and here we have it. I haven't quite got it yet in terms of just my way of thinking, but what was very interesting to me was Am's sacred sound and a spiritual symbol in Hinduism that signifies the essence of the ultimate reality, consciousness, or Atman, A-T-M-A-N. I remember I was saying the H, when you take that upper journey, the A is pointing up towards the apex and the T is at the top. So that would make absolute sense to me in terms of how it's described there. And again, the letters chosen are very particularly chosen because the letters themselves have a representation in relation to this material, immaterial, and hard bridge juncture of the material and the immaterial sort of triad within us. Father, Son, I talked about this. The Father is the thought, right? The O. The upper, the mother, the Father, the Son is the material, and the Holy Ghost then is that bridge in the center, that that juncture point. At the sticks between. Yeah. But yeah, very interesting. But yeah, I was thinking about the Gardasil. We have for cervical Garda is the police over here, and I was thinking of the G put in front there of the A or DA. Again, it's sort of imposing on top. So we have this material attack, if you will, on the immaterial. And well, of course, we're forced to live within this material reality. But yeah, the Garda Síochána. Funny enough, the Síochána is my surname, Sheehan. Sheehan translates to O'Sheacháin. And I use the term surname lightly. I don't use the legal name anymore, and I'm certainly not defined by a name. But Pete Shea is a take on Sheehan or Sheehan, so that was a nickname as a child. But O'Sheacháin, yeah, translates to of peace in Irish. But there we have the Garda O'Sheachána, the guardians of the peace, who, well, personal experience or anything, but anyway. But because the G is there, I'm thinking that's the way it's written as well. But you talk about Gardasil for cervical cancer, Yggdrasil, yeah. Yggdrasil, a U tree perhaps. Sil is tree. I'm going to have another look into that word because all of these words are sort of made popular now by movies like Avengers or superhero movies. You know, these are not unheard of terms by many people. So again, clues for us all in plain sight. And well, the word is composed of the letters. So when we understand the letters, then maybe that is going to provide a big clue for us to help us along. My view, imagine being sat in big TIC stream banging on about water, being flat for 2 hours. Well, some are happy to do that. So live and let live. For me, yeah, no competition here. I'm not trying to convince anyone. As you can see, I'm waffling on, but I am talking in general about certain things. But I could go into much more detail, but I'd have to find some sort of coherent structure to present it, and I'm not bothered. I can't do that. It's not that I can't do it, but how am I going to present anything to? Trying to sort of break everything down into simple terms and get the message across, or what I'm trying to say across in simple terms. And after that, then, if you hear something, because the way I look at this, all of this applies to us. For instance, you can go out yourself and start recognizing or collecting evidence that there are repeating cloud patterns in your vicinity. Guarantee you'll do it. Do it for 2 days, and if you have 2 good days where you have clear and crisp clouds, you'll see a repeating pattern. The more you keep looking, the more you'll see all the same pattern. So that would be a start along that path. You know what I mean? I can't do that for you, but I know that you'll necessarily find the same as I will, as I have done, and as I will tomorrow. It's just a matter of recognizing this and putting it down to something that's far beyond chance. It's a repeating stencil-like pattern that's been transmitted. And we see that it's the pattern in my area, neck of the woods, is not peculiar to me. It's common to all of us. It's just ever decreasing circles. Again, it's amazing. Like it's fractals everywhere. Like one of those bubbles, you know, those soap bubble things that you blow through to get bubbles. Just continually producing bubbles, but each one of them is just ever increasing, interlapping, intersecting. But as I say, when you can discern these patterns, these definitive patterns, once you know what you're looking for, you will find them. I have pictures here. I actually have. I won't do that tonight now. Maybe I'll do that next night, actually, because my brother was able to transfer some of the captures I got on camera showing these cloud patterns, and I have a few videos as well where I talk you through it. So I should play that the next night. But yeah, as I say, once you have the idea, then you can go out yourself and satisfy yourself and see where that might take you. So, yeah, it's getting a bit late here. Shit, and I have nothing done as well. So, my view, I think BTIC, you might learn more. You'll probably be more entertained anyway. But I didn't mean to stay on overly long. I definitely wanted just to read a couple of chapters of Pinocchio, which I think I will, but not too many. And I might leave you them with a song. So just a brief one tonight. I think I'll do that. I'm not sure if we were. Oh yeah, we do chapter 22. Right, all the twos. Up to 36, so another 15 chapters. I definitely want to just tear into this, maybe in the next few days, and just start hang out, forget the songs, and just tear into it and get it finished to it. Because the more that I'm sort of thinking about what it represents, the more I see it's the same story. It's our trip, our trek through the material, coming to realize that there is a greater core to all of us, and let's see how Pinocchio gets on. So I think I'll just read 3 chapters, just because 3 is a round number. So let's hope we can pick up from the last time. Pinocchio discovers the thieves, and as a reward for faithfulness, he regains his liberty. Even though a boy may be very unhappy, he very seldom loses sleep over his worry. Marionette, being no exception to this rule, slept on peacefully for a few hours till well along toward midnight, when he was awakened by strange whisperings and stealthy sounds coming from the yard. He stuck his nose out of the doghouse and saw 4 slender, hairy animals. They were weasels, small animals very fond of both eggs and chickens. One of them left her companions and, going to the door of the doghouse, said in a sweet voice, "Good evening, Milampo." "My name is not Milampo," answered Pinocchio. "Who are you, then?" "I am Pinocchio." "What are you doing here?" "I'm the watchdog." "But where is Milampo?" "Where is the dog who used to live in this house? He died this morning." "Died? Poor beast, he was so good. Still, judging by your face, I think you too are a good-natured dog." "I beg your pardon, I am not a dog." "What are you, then?" "I am a marionette." "Are you taking the place of the watchdog?" "I'm sorry to say that I am. I'm being punished." "Well, I shall make the same terms with you that we had with the dead Milampo. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear them. And what are your terms?" "And this is our plan. We'll come once in a while, as in the past, to pay a visit to this hen house, and we'll take away 8 chickens. Of these, 7 are for us and 1 for you, provided, of course, that you will make believe you are sleeping and will not bark for the farmer." "Did Milampo really do that?" asked Pinocchio. "Indeed he did, and because of that we were the best of friends. Sleep away peacefully, and remember that before we go we shall leave you a nice fat chicken all ready for your breakfast in the morning. Is that understood?" "Even too well," answered Pinocchio, and shaking his head in a threatening manner, he seemed to say, "We'll talk this over in a few minutes, my friends." As soon as the 4 weasels had talked things over, they went straight to the chicken coop, which stood close to the doghouse. Digging busily with teeth and claws, they opened the little door and slipped in. But they were no sooner in than they heard the door close with a sharp bang. The one who done the trick was Pinocchio, who, not satisfied with that, dragged a heavy stone in front of it. That done, he started to bark, and he barked as if he were a real watchdog. "Bow wow wow, bow wow." Ruff, ruff. The farmer had heard the loud barks and jumps out of bed. Taking his gun, he leapt to the window and shouted, "What's the matter?" "The thieves are here," answered Pinocchio. "Where are they?" "In the chicken coop. I'll come down in a second." And, in fact, he was down in the yard in a twinkling, and running towards the chicken coop, he opened the door, pulled out the weasels one by one, and after tying them in a bag, said to them in a happy voice, "You're in my hands at last. I can punish you now, but I'll wait. In the morning you may come with me to the inn, and there you'll make a fine dinner for some hungry mortal. It is really too great an honor for you, one you do not deserve, but as you see, I'm really a very generous and kind man, and I'm going to do this for you." Then he went up to Pinocchio and began to pet and caress him. How did you ever find them out so quickly? And to think Milampo, my faithful Milampo, never saw them in all these years. The marionette could have told, then and there, all he knew about the shameful contract between the dog and the weasels, but thinking of the dead dog, he said to himself, Milampo is dead. What is the use of accusing him? Dead or gone, and they cannot defend themselves. The best thing to do is to leave them in peace. Were you awake or asleep when they came? Continued the farmer. I was asleep, answered Pinocchio, but they awakened me with their whisperings. One of them even came to the door of the doghouse and said to me, if you promise not to bark, we will make you a present of one of the chickens for your breakfast. Did you hear that? They had the audacity to make such a proposition as that to me. For you must know that, though I'm a very wicked marionette full of faults, still I never have been, nor ever shall be bribed. Fine boy, cried the farmer, slapping him on the shoulder in a friendly way. You ought to be proud of yourself. And to show you what I think of you, you are free from this instant. And he slipped the dog collar from his neck. So Pinocchio has certainly grown in stature and responsibility. It seems so. Chapter 23. Pinocchio weeps upon learning that the lovely maiden with azure hair is dead. He meets a pigeon who carries him to the seashore. He throws himself into the sea to go to the aid of his father. As soon as Pinocchio no longer felt the shameful weight of the dog collar around his neck, he started to run across the fields and meadows and never stopped till he came to the main road that was to take him to the fairy's house. When he reached it, he looked into the valley far below him, and there he saw the wood where unluckily he had met the fox and the cat, and the tall oak tree where he had been hanged. But though he searched far and near, he could not see the house where the fairy with the azure hair lived. He became terribly frightened, and running as fast as he could, he finally came to the spot where it once stood. The little house was no longer there. In its place lay a small marble slab which bore this sad inscription: Here lies the lovely fairy with azure hair who died of grief when abandoned by her little brother Pinocchio. The poor marionette was heartbroken at reading these words. He fell to the ground and, covering the cold marble with kisses, burst into bitter tears. He cried all night, and dawn found him still there, though his tears had dried, and only hard, dry sobs shook his wooden frame. These were so loud that they could be heard by the faraway hills. As he sobbed, he said to himself, "Oh, my fairy, my dear, dear fairy, why did you die? Why did I not die? Why am I so bad? Who am so bad instead of you, who are so good? And my father, where can he be? Please, dear fairy, please tell me where he is, and I shall never, never leave him again. You're not really dead, are you? If you love me, you will come back alive as before. Don't you feel sorry for me? I'm so lonely. If the two assassins come, they'll hang me again from the giant oak tree, and I will really die this time. What shall I do alone in this world? Now that you are dead and my father is lost, where shall I eat? Where shall I sleep? Who will make my new clothes? Oh, I want to die. Yes, I want to die. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, Pinocchio even tried to tear his hair, but it was only painted onto his wooden head, and he could not even pull it. Just then a large pigeon flew far above him. Seeing the marionette, he cried to him, "Tell me, little boy, what are you doing there?" "Can't you see I'm crying?" said Pinocchio, lifting his head toward the voice and rubbing his eyes with his sleeve. "Tell me," asked the pigeon, "do you by chance know of a marionette, Pinocchio by name?" "Pinocchio? Did you say Pinocchio?" replied the marionette, jumping to his feet. "Why, I am Pinocchio." At this answer, the pigeon flew swiftly down to the earth. He was much larger than a turkey. "Then you know Geppetto also?" "Do I know him? He's my father, my poor dear father. Has he perhaps spoken to you of me? Will you take me to him? Is he still alive? Answer me, please. Is he still alive? I left him 3 days ago on the shore of a large sea." "What was he doing?" "He was building a little boat with which to cross the ocean. For the last 4 months the poor man has been wandering about Europe looking for you. Not having found you yet, he has made up his mind to look for you in the New World, far across the ocean." "How far is it from here to the shore?" asked Pinocchio anxiously. More than 50 miles. 50 miles? Oh dear, pigeon. I wish I had your wings. If you want to come, I'll take you with me. How? Astride my back. Are you very heavy? Heavy? Not at all. I'm only a feather. Very well. Saying nothing more, Pinocchio jumped on the pigeon's back, and, as he settled himself, he cried out gaily, gallop on, my pretty steed. I'm in a great hurry. The pigeon flew away, and in a few minutes he had reached the clouds. Marionette looked to see what was below them. His head swam, and he was so frightened that he clutched wildly at the pigeon's neck to keep himself from falling. They flew all day. Towards evening the pigeon said, I'm very thirsty. I'm very hungry, said Pinocchio. Let us stop a few minutes at that pigeon coop down there. Then we can go on and be at the seashore in the morning. They went into the empty coop and they found nothing but a bowl of water and a small basket filled with chicken peas. Marionette had always hated chickpeas. Chicken peas, chickpeas, sorry. Marionette had always hated chickpeas. According to him, they had always made him sick, but that night he ate them with relish. As he finished them, he turned to the pigeon and said, I should never have thought that chickpeas could be so good. You must remember, my boy, answered the pigeon, that hunger is the best sauce. After resting a few minutes longer, they set out again. The next morning, they were at the seashore. Pinocchio jumped off the pigeon's back, and the pigeon, not wanting any thanks for a kind deed, flew away swiftly and disappeared. The shore was full of people shrieking and tearing their hair as they looked towards the sea. What has happened? Asked Pinocchio of a little old woman. The poor old father lost his only son some time ago, and today he built a boat for himself in order to go in search of him across the ocean. The water is very rough, and we're afraid he'll be drowned. Where's the little boat? There, straight down there, answered the old woman, pointing to a tiny shadow no bigger than a nutshell floating on the sea. Pinocchio looked closely for a few moments, and then gave a sharp cry. It's my father! It's my father! Meanwhile, the little boat, tossed about by the angry waters, appeared and disappeared in the waves, and Pinocchio, standing on a high rock, tired out with searching, waved to him with hand and cap, and even with his nose. It looked as if Geppetto, though far away from the shore, recognized his son, for he took off his cap and waved also. He seemed to be trying to make everyone understand that he would come back if he were able, but the sea was so heavy that he could do nothing with his oars. Suddenly a huge wave came and the boat disappeared. They waited and waited for it, but it was gone. Poor man, said the fisher folk on the shore, whispering a prayer as they turned to go home. Just then a desperate cry was heard. Turning around, the fisher folk saw Pinocchio dive into the sea and heard him cry out, I'll save him, I'll save my father. Marionette, made of wood, floated easily along and swam like a fish in the rough water, and now and again he disappeared, only to reappear once more. In a twinkling he was far away from land. At last he was completely lost to view. Poor boy, cried the fisher folk of the shore, and again they mumbled a few prayers before they returned home. Oh, well, chapter 24, 24, 888. Okay. Yeah, timely that we finish on this then, and that'll leave 12 chapters for the next night. Yeah, they're not going to come in too much. Lots of things sort of occurring, and we can see how Pinocchio is growing, and let's see how he continues. Chapter 24. Pinocchio reaches the island of the busy bees and finds the fairy once more. Pinocchio, spurred on by the hope of finding his father and being in time to save him, swam all night long. Oh, what a horrible night it was! It poured rain, it hailed, it thundered, and the lightning was so bright that it turned the night into day. At dawn he saw, not far away from him, a long stretch of sand. It was an island in the middle of the sea. Pinocchio tried his best to get there, but he couldn't. The waves played with him and tossed him about as if he were a twig or a bit of straw. At last, and luckily for him, a tremendous wave tossed him to the very spot where he wanted to be. The blow from the wave was so strong that as he fell to the ground, his joints cracked and almost broke. Nothing daunted, he jumped to his feet and cried, Once more I have escaped with my life. Little by little the sky cleared, the sun came out in full splendor, and the sea became as calm as a lake. Then the marionette took off his clothes and laid them on the sand to dry. He looked over the waters to see whether he might catch sight of a boat with a little man in it. He searched and he searched, but he saw nothing except sea and sky, and far away a few sails, so small that they might have been birds. If only I knew the name of this island, he said to himself. If I even knew what kind of people I would find there. But whom shall I ask? There is no one here. The idea of finding himself in so lonesome a spot made him so sad that he was about to cry, but just then he saw a big fish swimming nearby, with his head far out of the water. Not knowing what to call him, the marionette said to him, "Hey there, Mr. Fish, may I have a word with you?" "Even two, if you want," answered the fish, who happened to be a very polite dolphin. "Will you please tell me if on this island there are places where one may eat without necessarily being eaten?" "Surely there are," answered the dolphin. "In fact, you'll find one not far from this spot." "And how shall I get there?" "Take the path on your left and follow your nose. You can't go wrong. Tell me another thing. You who travel day and night through the sea, did you not perhaps meet a little boat with my father in it? And who is your father?" "Why, he is the best father in the world, even if I am the worst son that can be found." "In the storm of last night," answered the dolphin, "the little boat must have been swamped." "And my father?" "By this time he must have been swallowed by the terrible shark, which for the last few days had been bringing terrors to these waters." "Is the shark very big?" asked Pinocchio, who was beginning to tremble with fright. "Is he big?" replied the dolphin. "Just to give you an idea of his size, let me tell you that he is larger than a five-story building, and that he has a mouth so big and so deep that a whole train and engine could easily get into it." "Mother mine!" cried the marionette, scared to death, and dressing himself as fast as he could, he turned to the dolphin and said, "Farewell, Mr. Fish. Pardon the bother, and many thanks for your kindness." This said, he took the path at so swift a gait that he seemed to fly, and at every small sound he heard, he turned in fear to see whether the terrible shark, 5 stories high and with a train in his mouth, was following him. After walking a half hour, he came to a small country called the Land of the Busy Bees. The streets were filled with people running to and fro about their tasks. Everyone worked, everyone had something to do. Even if one were to search with a lantern, not one idle man or one tramp could be found. "I understand," said Pinocchio to one wearily. "This is no place for me. I was not born to work." But in the meantime he began to feel hungry, for it was 24 hours since he had eaten. What was to be done? There were only two means left to him in order to get a bite to eat. He had to either work or to beg. He was ashamed to beg, because his father had always preached to him that begging should be done only by the sick or the old. He had said that the real poor in this world, deserving of our pity and help, were only those who either through age or sickness had lost the means of earning their bread with their own hands. All others should work, and if they didn't, and went hungry, so much the worse for them. Just then a man passed by, worn out and wet with perspiration, pulling with difficulty 2 heavy carts filled with coal. Pinocchio looked at him, and judging by his looks to be a kind man, said to him with eyes downcast in shame, "Will you be so good as to give me a penny? For I am faint with hunger." "Not only one penny," answered the coal man. "I'll give you 4 if you will help me pull these 2 wagons." "I'm surprised," answered the marionette, very much offended. "I wish you to know that I never have been a donkey, nor have I ever pulled a wagon." "So much the better for you," answered the coal man. "Then, my boy, if you're really faint with hunger, eat 2 slices of your pride, and I hope they don't give you any indigestion." Okay, last page for this evening. A few minutes after, a bricklayer passed by, carrying a pail full of plaster on his shoulder. "Good man, will you be kind enough to give a penny to a poor boy who is yawning from hunger?" "Gladly," answered the bricklayer. "Come with me and carry some plaster. Instead of 1 penny, I'll give you 5." "But the plaster is heavy," answered Pinocchio, "and the work too hard for me." "If the work is too hard for you, my boy, enjoy your yawns, and may they bring you luck." In less than a half hour, at least 20 people passed, and Pinocchio begged each one of them, but they all answered, "Aren't you ashamed? Instead of being a beggar in the streets, why don't you look for work and earn your own bread?" Finally, a little woman went by carrying 2 water jugs. "Good woman, will you allow me to have a drink from one of your jugs?" asked Pinocchio, who was burning up with thirst. "With pleasure, my boy," she answered, setting the 2 jugs on the ground before him. When Pinocchio had had his fill, he grumbled as he wiped his mouth, "My thirst is gone. If I could only as easily get rid of my hunger." On hearing these words, the good little woman immediately said, "If you help me to carry these jugs home, I'll give you a slice of bread." Pinocchio looked at the jug and said neither yes nor no. With the bread, I'll give you a nice dish of cauliflower with white sauce in it. Pinocchio gave the jug another look and said neither yes nor no. After the cauliflower, some cake and jam. His last bribery, Pinocchio could no longer resist and said firmly, "Very well, I'll take the jug home for you." The jug was very heavy, and the marionette, not being strong enough to carry it with his hands, put it on his head. When they arrived home, the little woman made Pinocchio sit down at a small table and placed before him the bread, the cauliflower, and the cake. Pinocchio did not eat, he devoured. His stomach seemed a bottomless pit. His hunger finally appeased, he raised his head to thank his kind benefactress. But he had not looked at her long when he gave a cry of surprise and sat there with his eyes wide open, his fork in the air and his mouth filled with bread and cauliflower. "Why all this surprise?" asked the good woman, laughing. "Because," answered Pinocchio, stammering and stuttering, "because you look like, yes, you remind me of, yes, yes, the same voice, the same eyes, the same hair, yes, yes, yes. You also have the same azure hair she had. Oh, my little fairy, tell me that it is you. Don't make me cry any longer. If I only knew, I have cried. If you only knew, I have cried so much. I have suffered so." And Pinocchio threw himself on the floor, clasped the knees of the mysterious little woman. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Uh, yeah. Well, a few valuable lessons that Pinocchio is learning along the way, but yeah, we'll hold back and see what the overall lesson is when we progress further. That's probably interesting. That's chapter 24. So when I come back to read that, I'll be reading that again. That would be a significant chapter. Chapter 13 would probably be another significant chapter if there was any clues to be found inlaid within whatever words chosen. All these stories, you can be sure, are ingrained with little patterns that, if you're clued into uh, decoding, um, you'd find a way. And I generally think because these are so popular and passed down through the generations, that yeah, there certainly are many codes just within the structure of the sentences and the letters chosen to begin or end sentences in general. But in terms of the overall story, yeah, into the last third of it. So happy to be making progress at that. Maybe two more times, six chapters and six will see me with 12. But outside of that, I don't have too much to comment tonight. Yeah, very, as per usual, all over the place, hang out, and get to play too much music, but yeah, I'm not going to stay on much longer. Um, yeah, I think you're about right there, Otto. Okay, I won't get into that. Yeah, okay, well, I appreciate that, Otto, but don't worry about that. Do go, do do your own thing. I think Dell has his followers, but as I said, I'm just coming at it from a point of view where we need to progress. We need to stop talking about the same things. But that doesn't seem to be the same for everybody. Which way the individual goes is the difficult question with all of this. Follow no one, hear everyone out, and because the whole arena, I say, is so controlled. Yeah, sharpen your skills and come to recognize the signs. You learn more from people by what they won't talk about over what they will, and um, people with infinite patience who haven't changed their point of view from entering when they enter the arena. There's something wrong here. So you got to figure out what might be wrong and what's the purpose of this. What's going on here? I can't tell you. I say it's all pre-written, and these characters are put in place from Dell to uh, name it, Nathan Oakley, Mark Sargent, all of them. As Paraland, fuck's sake, all of them. We're all the same returning characters, and one thing I think they have in common is they haven't changed their point of view on Addison. They've come in all knowing, and they haven't advanced. This is not a natural way to carry oneself. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So if the whole argument is controlled, and yeah, you're happy settling for this, well then you're playing somebody else's game and you're not playing your own. As far as I'm concerned, there's so much more to learn, and even though there's no one here, I'm not bothered about that. Um, by me reading Pinocchio out loud there, even if it was painful for some people to listen to, it's fine. Not doing it for anyone else. In one sense, it's always something I've been wanting to read, especially because there's a special significance placed on the story, and I'll just see where I come out at the end of it, and I'm sure it's going to places, especially in conjunction with everything else, and we're sort of considering. So yeah. Okay, I'm off anyway as well, David. So yeah, I'm going to thank you all for tuning in. So I should prepare something. I've been meaning to do a few things. One is the division of letters into the 3 different categories, and also put the numbers in as well in their respective categories. Again, all in relation to the main material versus the heart center, the OH, and then versus the material, the L. And then we can understand all many different characters, or literary creations like Adam and Eve, or Jesus for that matter, in relation to these 3 categories, and the journey needed, from that we need to all take, which is the realization that we are not the literal. So how can we manifest, in terms of the immaterial? And who knows where it will lead ultimately. Let's continue on and find out. So I left that link. For the JFK thread. So anyone who wants that, you just find that if you scroll back up. Definitely highly recommended. And there's no turning back from this as well. It's just so far beyond the rabbit hole, where fundamentally everything is connected. Everything's connected, and well, everything culminates to one degree with flat Earth. But what's beyond that then? The bigger question. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to say thanks a lot. I'm going to leave you with this soft version of it because it's pretty late here. Parting glass, and thank you for tuning in and listening along. Until the next time. All the money that I've spent in good company, and all the harm that I did, unless it was to none but and all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. Fulfill to me the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you. If I had money enough to spend, and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in town that certainly has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks, her ruby lips, I own she has my heart enthralled. Fulfill to me the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you. Oh, comrades, there I have, they're sorry for my pain. And all the sweethearts that I have, You would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls onto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night, enjoy being with you. I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night, enjoy being with you. Okay, good night, friends. So well. I love you, Steve.